Very, very strange, that one. I see 3 of you there for the pre-show. Hopefully, Rep will be joining us shortly. It's a little nerve-wracking. Our guest is not here yet. It's a tiny bit nerve-wracking. But then, you know, wouldn't be us without it. We will be starting very shortly. Been bumping this all week. We shall see what happens. One more. There he is. Hey. Ah, there he is. Welcome, sir.
I can't hear you.
You can't?
Let me try and do this again. Technology stinks.
It does. I can hear me. All of my
I'm gonna
levels.
go off and come back. I'll be right there.
No worries. Oh, fun stuff. Yay, technology. Awesome. Well, we will be starting, folks, very soon. For those of you on the Facebook chat, please hang in there. It's might be one of those days. Let's try again. 501 will be starting very shortly. Hang in there with us. We're going to start real soon. 501.
I still can't hear you, Jeff.
Really? That's
Got to be on my end.
I don't know that. I'm talking about.
There you are.
You got me.
That was my fault.
Oh, okay. No, thank goodness. I had tech problems yesterday during a live event. So
You know what? This Zoom thing is brand new. You know.
yeah, right. We only been doing this for a few minutes, right?
Yeah. Let me put the light on here.
No worries.
Cool.
I'm gonna get started.
All right. Yeah. It somehow something on the computer. There's a button there.
That's all right. We will be live in. Wait. Let me move that window. We will be live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States on this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live for August 8th, 2021. Summer's creeping past very quickly, folks. It's August 8th already. If you do, wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, sharing the program this week to roughly 80 different places, and then, of course, wherever you at home decide to share it, usually between 80 and 100 each week, we thank you very much for being there. I know that this line has become somewhat cliche as the weeks proceed, but it is the truth. We could not be here if you are not there. And we appreciate every single one of you. You can stay exactly where you are, continue to watch, listen, and enjoy the program. However, if you wish to join the live chat happening right now, please come over to our home group Facebook page called That Other Side of Information. You will see the program right there. Tap on it. It will expand out and you can comment from there. Comment, questions, agree, disagree, yell, scream, anything you wish. Put it right there in the comments. It's a piece of cake. Join the program. You can live tweet the program. My Twitter feed is open on yet another device here. I have 3 devices. 4. 4 devices in front of me right now. You can live tweet the program at That Kennedy Talk. You can email the program, thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Later in the program, we will actually be opening the phone line as well. To our sisters and brothers at hot101.net, one of the originators, one of the very first of global internet radio. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for being back here and allowing us onto your phones, your tablets, your laptops, your desktops, and now your smart speakers. You can tell Alexa to play hot101.net. If you don't know how to listen to hot101.net, it is extremely simple. The main website page, it's in our name. It's hot101.net. Go to the Apple App Store and download the Apple app. If you have an Android device, you can go to Google Play and download the hot101.net app there. Or if you have the TuneIn Radio app, just go to the search bar and search for hot101.net. And if it's Tuesday evening on TCP, it is the Kennedy Effect. And you can hear us now live on TCP's global internet outlet, WTCP, a home-owned, minority-owned business, broadcast business out of Lancaster, PA, right here in our own humble commonwealth. And I am proud, humbled to be part of the TCP family. They are part of my family and I am part of theirs, and I could not be happier. So we thank you all for being here yet again on a very hot and steamy August 8th here in the Lehigh Valley. I am fresh off of the classic car show with my brother and Kristen today in Macungie, a yearly, well, I was going to say, a yearly tradition, but then again, we didn't do that last year, did we? So I guess you could sort of kind of still call it a yearly tradition. It was nice to be back into some of these yearly traditions. We have a bit of a milestone today for the program, and that milestone is in the form of our guest. We have never had a sitting higher elected official come and visit the program. And so I don't do a lot of back chatting here, partially because I can't reach it. And secondly, because it's not too classy of a thing to do. But we are very proud to have the current state representative, Joe Ciresi from Montgomery County, the 100 and I'm blanking on your district, the 134th.
46.
46. I think I did a dyslexic thing with your district.
That's all right.
That's not the most classy thing either, as we say. But you are our first sitting state rep to join us. I'm hoping, to be blunt, you will open the floodgates. You'll have a great time. We will have a great program, and you will tell everybody else, don't be afraid of that guy. He might be smart, but he's not going to scare you.
There you go. No,
So-
honored to be the first. There's always got to be a first.
Exactly. Well, there had to be a first program, and now we're. I tell some guests the very first program is April 17th of 2020, just as all of this fun was starting. So we're about a year and a half in. I think that week we were not on any radio outlets. We were certainly not on TV outlets. And I believe we shared the program to about 12 different locations. This week it'll be about 100, 2 global internet outlets and a TV outlet. Not so bad in a year and a half.
And yeah, a little over a year. That's wonderful.
We must be doing something right.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
Representative Joe Ciresi, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. I'm a little intrigued. You're at an auto show today. What kind of cars were you showing?
Well, I will never pronounce this correct. It is the yearly Das Ach Fest in Macungie. It is one of the largest classic car shows in the country. My brother, who ironically is older than me, but yet tends to gravitate toward the late 50s and 60s cars, because those are the ones that he owned. Not many of them survived, by the way, but he did own them. I tend to gravitate more toward the originals. I think the oldest thing that we happened to catch today was a 1921 Rolls Royce.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
It was massive. I mean, it was as big as a van or even a passenger van. It was huge, and it was meticulous and just immaculate in every way, shape, or form. I tend to drift more toward the older cars because that's what my my dad passed on to me as the old cars, the beauty, the simplicity, the dare I say the technology and simplicity all in the same sentence, but I think you know what I mean. It's just
Right.
this new machine, this new wonderful horseless carriage machine. So I tend to drift more toward the old ones myself. And what was there today was, I had seen it before. It was nice to see it back again. At least I assume it's the same car. A 1921 electric car.
Yes, there was an electric car back then. I can remember there was a movie that had the car in it, and it talked about the electric car. I can't remember what movie it was. But think about that technology. In 1921, 100 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we had the technology that today we're starting to see become reality. I mean, more and more and more and more cars are electric. And, we talk about innovations. This is where we're heading in our country. As an elected official, we talked about different things for the environment, and that car is, what opens the floodgates to the future. And it's coming from the past. So Tesla, he was brilliant way back when. I mean, with the things he was doing way back in the time compared to today were miles ahead.
Think about where we could have been, Rep Joe, if that had been the technology that took off. I was talking to my brother and Kristen, obviously, today while we were there at the show. It is my understanding. Much of my history comes from my brain. So hopefully my memory of the way the story was explained to me is correct. And I'm sure someone who's listening, if I'm incorrect, you correct me in the comments or ring us up later in the program and correct me. But my understanding of the entomology, the genealogy of it is that why am I blanking on the name again? I'm blanking on the name of the oil magnate from the early parts of the century. He was right here in PA too. Had a tremendous amount of what was then a waste product from his manufacturer processing to make kerosene, and that residual was gasoline. He didn't know what to do with all of it.
Wow.
He was piling it up, tankers and tankers and tankers full of gasoline. And so what was he going to do with all of it? It's not melon. Why do I keep forgetting? I just had this conversation a couple hours ago. I'm blanking on the name. But how could he get rid of it? Well, it worked really, really well in internal combustion engines. So he poured investment money into internal combustion engines, and at the same time pouring his money into suppressing. There were cars back then that ran on water.
Yep.
And that ran, and as I just explained, electricity. Now think about this too. The 1921 car, folks, that I looked at today looks every bit, by the way, like a 1921 car. If you can picture what that might look like in your head. It had 14 slightly bigger, but what we would, if you could imagine, just a car back. 14. It went 100 miles on a charge. Now, it didn't go any faster than 30 miles an hour, but then again, we're talking about 1921. It's a pretty good clip in 1921,
Right.
considering that there was the preponderance of roads were not even paved.
Right.
That's a pretty good clip. So 100 years ago, as you rightly pointed out, and for whatever reason, that math didn't jive to me today. 100 years ago, you could go 100 miles on a charge. And so he had all this gasoline to use, and how am I going to get rid of it? Oh, and even more, how am I going to get rid of it? How am I going to make money on it?
Yeah.
So one really rich guy pushed this country into internal combustion for a century. Isn't it beyond time that we do something different?
Well, the good thing is that we are seeing more and more commitment to the electric car. We are seeing more and more commitment to hybrids. I think that within the next 20 years, we're going to see every car either be a hybrid or electric. That every new car. I don't think we'll see full combustion engines, any longer like we have. But Yeah,
or perhaps restricted to heavy trucking or something like
maybe,
that.
right. Well, even those are starting to change over
True.
also, because when you look at how much they can save in gas and how much money that reflects to have a hybrid engine. Oh, I was talking to someone the other day. I had to bring the car in for inspection, and I said to him, my lease comes up in about 8 months. I said, what's the next model look like? I said, are they electric? He said, well, you can't go 100% electric. He said, but they are coming up with a hybrid. I'm like, well, that's the one I want. I need the range, so there's still issues with finding the charges. But if I can get a car that's a hybrid, my mileage will go from 25 miles a gallon to 35 to 45. And today, when I filled up at 309 a gallon, which was cheap because I went to one of the big stores that has it, as opposed to 333 at one of the other very common locations. I won't mention either one of them. I could see that if I didn't have to do that for every maybe 2 weeks, that would be a significant savings.
Hey, I still go to New Jersey when I can for gas.
Well, you're close.
And even though New Jersey has significantly raised its gas tax, it was 18, 19 cents a gallon cheaper than here in Pennsylvania.
You fill up 17, 18, 19 gallons, you're saving. Correct. I figured today I saved about $4 or $5 by just going where I went. And that's, do that 30 times, and it adds up.
So does your drive from home to Harrisburg preclude you from going fully electric, you think, or just would be massively?
The drive.
Or then you're looking at a Tesla, which are not cheap.
Yeah, no, not only, well, I can't afford a Tesla. And even some of the American and even the foreign ones that are cheaper, it depends on how long they hold it. So my drive could be anywhere from 90 to 120 miles, depending on 110 miles, depending on which way I go. So you figure it's 220 miles round trip. If there's nowhere there to plug in, and then I hear that in the winter, it draws down a lot when the heat goes on.
Right.
Not as much with the air conditioning, but with the heat. So I've been, leery of going that route. I'd love to go that route, but it just isn't feasible for me yet. My colleague has what's the bigger one? The Volt or the Volt? The Volt.
The Chevy Volt is the plug-in electric hybrid, yes.
And he gets like 50 miles on the electric, which isn't bad, but then you fill it up. Right. So that's not too bad. But for 50 miles, I don't want to spend all that extra money. Even though it is worth it, I know environmentally, but it's just, I got to look at the balance.
Right. We're still human beings. We still have a household budget we have to meet.
Exactly.
Things like that. The car payment has to be something we can make.
And I'll say this, phasing it into being a legislator, I do feel that we have an obligation as a state to make sure every one of our vehicles is a hybrid. You look at something like a Ford Fusion, and the Ford Fusion hybrid, and I have looked at those get like 40, 50, 60 miles to the gallon. We buy Fords, so let's just buy the hybrid ones. And I think if we moved in that direction, we would see a huge savings in how much we're spending on the consumption of fuel, and then also our carbon footprint would be reduced. That's not going fully fully electric. That's just moving to the hybrid stage to make sure every vehicle we use, wherever we can, we look to see about a hybrid option, if not a full electric option.
Is this one of those, what I believe you and I would consider to be very common sense issues that you get pushback from the other side because they know where their financial interests are? Let's be blunt.
I don't know how much, I've never really come to the floor with this proposal. I don't know how much of the other side would push it back, because let's look at this from there. If we're going to look at it from the other side, they're saving money. So if we could save money, it accomplishes what they're looking to say that they want to also do. And we all want to save money, don't get me wrong. But, whether they're being supported by whoever, there's still a savings that you can't debate. If that car can go on a tank of gas 600 miles opposed to 300, we just saved a full tank every single week or whatever it is.
But let me play devil's advocate just for a second. You and I agree on this. I mean, I don't think there's even any daylight, really. We agree on this. But the party opposite us and the movement that owns them has pushed back on even simple things like making it easier to put solar on your home and things like this, even though the environment, when I travel for work up into the northern Lackawanna County, Luzerne County, and you see these, well, I just spoke about this, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, these wonderful, majestic wind turbines on top of the hills. And oh, by the way, all the trees around them are alive and well. Thank you so much.
And the birds.
I actually find them quite majestic to look at. I actually almost find them relaxing to look at.
Right.
And they're in constant motion. But yet the other side, the right wing, has demonized these things. They are not just environmentally friendly, but they are savings. I often talk about the statistic that the amount of fossil fuel jobs in the Commonwealth now is hovering around the 24,000 mark. The number of green jobs is 96,000. But then again, we know where the financial interests are. We know what side of the bread the butter is on for the side opposite us, and sadly, for some in our own party. So a common sense argument like, if we have to buy cars, why don't we just buy hybrid ones? Is that something that if you took that to the floor, do you think there's actually be some folks on the other side who would say, yeah, it makes sense to me? Or no, I'm getting a lot of campaign money from the fossil fuel industry and no, I can't do that.
I think there definitely would be. We would hear from them saying, absolutely, we would want to look into that. Here's the thing. I think that there's also, I don't want to use the word that I'm thinking of, which is education, to educate people on the
I want to get to education with you for
that's a whole, that could be a 15-hour conversation. But when we look at this, and I don't mean education as you're not intelligent, understanding what the technology is and understanding where we're going with it. Because let's be honest, Jeff, let's take a fully hybrid vehicle or a fully electric vehicle. How much of that vehicle was made by petroleum? It's mostly plastic because it has to be in order for the weight of the vehicle because of the batteries. And the batteries are made from plastic. So you're still putting petroleum products into that vehicle. It's not like it's completely petroleum free. So when we start to look at this, you have to look at it, like we said, in a common sense way. Look, we're not pushing out the gas and oil business. We're not doing that. And to be honest, we're not going to see a fully reduction of that in 10 years, in 20 years. No. There's going to be a dependency probably for the next 150 years. Now it's going to keep going down, but more and more people are feeling confident about this. Our parents came from a generation where they would not buy a car that was made in Japan or Germany because of World War II. And I remember when my parents bought their first Toyota, my father couldn't believe that they bought a Toyota. And then from that point forward, they owned Toyotas all the way through. Now, of course,
early on, there was a demonization of vehicles from those countries. Exactly. How could you buy a car from a country that fought us in a world war?
Right. And then when you started to see the vehicle that they were producing and the quality of the vehicle, and it made American cars better. I mean, you look at our American cars today compared to what they were 25, 30 years ago, some of them, in gas mileage and safety. Our American cars can go up against anything today. We've got such, you look and go, wow, that's a Chevy or that's a Ford. Yeah. That's a great looking car. I mean, the cars in the 40s, 50s, and 60s were unbelievable. Then we went through that phase. The competition came in. So I think it's a matter of the colleagues really looking at this saying, you know what? We can't put people to work. We can make high paying jobs. We can still continue on this side, but we need to do something. And what we tend to do is we take an issue and we just push it in everybody's face on both sides. Well, it's like having a kid. When you do that to a kid, what do you do right away? You lose them. But when you walk through together and say, okay, where can we agree on this all the way through? Then you start having people, because that car still has petroleum-made tires, petroleum-made wheel. I mean, the petroleum business is still going strong. But on the other side, when you're seeing $335, $340, $390 at the gas tank, at the pumps, and you're filling a car up for $40 or $50, and you say, wait, if we want a hybrid, we can maybe do this every 3 weeks instead of every 2. Now you just showed that maybe we should go down this route. Let's see how it works. So I think that we would have support if we were able to get the attention and say, let's look to buy all hybrids anywhere we can. And now let's just buy everything that's hybrid. Let's make sure we're getting the money out of it that we need to, that it's going to last. Because there are some that still aren't great hybrids to buy. There's some that have been recalled because they've had fires. But I think it's just not a, you're wrong and we're right. You know, I'm a moderate in a lot of ways. And I believe I always say coming from an Italian background where you'd have the family would fight, and then everyone would sit down and eat dinner together. You know, and wait a minute, you just screamed at each other for 3 hours, now you're all eating. There is always room.
Well, nothing brings everybody together like food.
Like food, right. So let's always have food. But I have made a lot of friends on the other side of the aisle or colleagues, acquaintances. I think that there is a place for always having a conversation. You know,
it's actually one of the big topics that I was really hoping to get into with as the program proceeds. Obviously, education is one. I've sat on a couple of the live Zoom events that you've done about education and fair funding, especially. But one of the other big things I really wanted to get into with the talk of cars and environment is a bonus from my money, but is just your day to day with folks on the opposite side in Harrisburg, because I find it, even though I do this for a living, you know, I have a full-time job, I do politics, and I do this. So I have 3 jobs. One of them pays, the other 2 don't. But I mean, but you know, I do this on a daily basis, and I'm fascinated to ask you as we proceed about, you know, just about your day to day and things. But before we leave the environment topic, and before I ask you what is usually our traditional opening question, which I will do after the bottom of the hour and after I get to reset the program. The Commonwealth still continues on a yearly basis to give a free, or at least I refer to it as a free, and please correct me if you think if you disagree. About $3.2 billion a year to the fossil fuel industry. If we're going to make the argument that greening the Commonwealth, be it on the roads, on our roofs, I talked about what happens a lot in private office parks in New Jersey, where the car parks are covered with panels. You build a superstructure where you get to park in a dry place at least, but that roof, if you will, that cover is a solar panel. I've never seen it here in the Commonwealth. We have farms, and I use that word almost pejoratively, of warehouses here in the Lehigh Valley. I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah.
Not a single one of them that I'm aware of has a single solar panel anywhere on its big flat roof. If we're going to argue savings, how do we continue to give $3.2 billion free dollars to an industry that is dying, and an industry that is quite literally extracting the wealth out from under our feet, not paying a dime for that either, by the way.
No, that's the whole argument, right?
And shipping it overseas. Oh, by the way, right under my feet, as the 7 or 8, I think it is, different pipelines run right here under Lower Saucon Township.
So, you know, it's a hard question and it's an easy question at the same time. It's a hard question because Pennsylvania has one of the largest deposits of natural gas in the country and possibly in the world. Marcellus Shale, the amount of gas we have there, and I just heard recently, under that is even more. So, you know, the argument is, look, we've got a cheap way of fueling and keeping people warm and safe and all, and we should be extracting it because we're making money from it and it's having great paying jobs. And you say to yourself, well, that's wonderful. But like you just said, how do we get to renewable? Now, there are places, UGI, I think, has a covered parking lot, the gas company, that's, if I'm not mistaken, off the turnpike, that all the cars are covered and there's solar above it.
Good.
And we were in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago and saw multiple locations that had covered with the solar on top. We also visited a small town called Millvale, literally over one of the bridges right outside of downtown, right outside of Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, that most of the community is doing renewable. Small community, but they're into renewable. So their roofs have it, they have sheds. The one shed has it where they have a community garden that just charges their powered batteries for all their equipment for the garden, which is pretty cool. So they don't have any gas products on that property. It's just charging their batteries. They have one little solar panel on a roof. And then we visited Phipps Conservatory, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with this, similar to like a Longwood Gardens that's down in the Chester County area. Excuse me, it's this massive gardens in a whole conservatory building. And they have 3 buildings. One of the buildings, I think, is 15,000 to 20,000 square feet, 100% off the grid, from water to electric, every part of it, down to the solid waste that also is off the grid. And you look at this, you say, well, how did you do it? Well, it cost a lot. The building was probably about $2 to $3 million more than a regular building, but it's paid itself back 5-fold. It's also considered one of the healthiest buildings. I think it has a certification that only 6 other buildings in the world has, for how healthy it is, for the people in it and for the building itself. So these things are possible if we can find industry to invest in it. And I think that's where the key is that, yes, we should not be giving all that money to gas and oil. Maybe we're subsidizing some of it. Again, we can't go from 3.5 billion to 0, but it is a lot of money. But we start saying, okay, we're going to start giving more into the renewables. When you see that you can put solar panels on your roof and the payback is in 20 years, I think more and more people will say, I want to do that. But right now, if I put solar panels on my roof, it's 20 years. Then I got to get a new roof and I got to get new solar panels. So it's almost a wash. You do save money, don't get me wrong. But it's also a bulky technology, which now, from what I understand, now they're little squares almost that look like a regular roof. You wouldn't even know it was solar. They look like the size of shingles. But that's also something that we need to educate the youth on. And I do think that our youth are seeing more and more renewables that are okay. We were in Indiana.
I'm wondering if the youth isn't educating us.
Well, the youth, well, it's always that way. Didn't we educate our parents on issues? That's always the generation that needs to educate the next generation. But we were in Indiana, I think, 12 years ago, roughly. We were driving around to different baseball stadiums from Pennsylvania all the way out to Chicago. And driving through Indiana, we went through miles and miles and miles of wind turbines, farms. It was eerie and exciting at the same time to see these massive things just for miles. But it showed that technology is there and people want to see us do this. And we need to be more responsible with what we're doing. But as a government entity, as the state government, our buildings should all be equipped with a lot of these technologies. Doesn't mean you're not using gas and oil or whatever, but we should be doing geothermal. When I was a school board member prior to getting on, there were 4 buildings under construction. All of them put geothermal in, and those buildings found that they paid back the cost of geothermal, I think, within 4 years. Solar panels, gray waters, collecting rainwater that you can put into a sprinkler system that then continues to do the landscaping. We should look for every option we can to integrate renewables more and more and more. But again, not saying that everything's got to go away tomorrow. I mean, in utopia, that would be perfect, but we're not in utopia.
No, and is that possibly the fear of folks who do work, especially the 2 unions that are deeply involved in fossil fuels? They do seem to argue this fear that you're going to take it all away from us tomorrow. I, of course, like to argue the fact that I think if you could weld a gas pipeline, you can probably weld one of those structures. You can probably weld a solar panel to a roof. I happen to believe in your talent, by the way, even if your union doesn't always do that. I think you can weld more than just a round cylindrical pipe carrying exactly what's killing us and the rest of the planet. I think you're better than that.
You could, yes, you could do a lot more things. And I think that we're seeing more and more of our unions who do have those great paying jobs expanding into renewable energies. It's
and a longer job life. They're more sustaining.
Exactly. But think about it. When you come from a coal town that everything has been based on that industry, that you've been able to survive and you've been able to live a good life and you've been able to put your kids through school and maybe have, some money in the bank and take a vacation and maybe have a small cabin or a place at the shore. And someone comes in and says, that's terrible. That's killing the environment. We're getting rid of that industry. You go, well, wait a minute. This is how we've survived all these years. How can you get rid of that? You're scaring off people rather than saying, you know what? At that coal plant, we're going to put in this renewable with it. And we're going to start showing people that we're going to do these together. That's how we're going to do it. And when people start to say, wow, and you start to meet somewhere in the middle, and all of a sudden you're starting to do the shift over to the other side. We go back 10 years. Let's look at where we were with hybrids and electric cars 10 years ago. I mean, what happened? It became more mainstream. People began to accept it, go, wow, what is that car? Oh, that's a hybrid. Really, you're getting 50 miles to the gallon? Remember the first Prius that came out and everyone
you beat me to it. I was gonna say the first time you watched a Prius roll down the road and you thought to yourself, I can't hear it. or it looks funny or something like that until you started to understand what the technology is. Yeah,
exactly. And then you went, wow, that's pretty cool. You mean I don't have to go to a gas station and put the thing in the car and I just plug it in the garage? I think I want to do that. So I think that we are seeing through evolution in manufacturing the change begin, and we're seeing corporations have it. And there's an exciting thing that's happening throughout Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was such a manufacturing state for all those years. And then when steel disappeared and coal started to die off and industries moved overseas, we had this void that was left in the state. And ingenuity has begun to set in where incubators are starting up all over the place with new technology, with new ideas. And more we're seeing these old manufacturing buildings be repurposed into new ways of making products, new types of products. And it's really exciting when we go to somewhere and see this. And as a legislator, we do travel to different places to see what people are doing. And we just visited, we visited here in Montgomery County, one of the old drug companies that had moved to another headquarters. They have this massive building with they're trying to do what they call wet labs and incubators and bring in all this new technology. And it's starting because you could start at a low price, your business that's a technologically based business at a lower price because it's somewhat subsidized or whatever, lower rent because they want to fill these massive buildings. And out of it comes some great technology. Look at all the technology we have due to space innovation. Velcro.
Oh, the space program is profoundly underrated. It's also why it breaks my heart to see it so privatized.
Well, that's the other side of it. NASA came out with great products. What is it? Who's it?
Well, they helped develop the internet. They helped develop the wireless technology that you and I are using to speak to each other right now.
Exactly.
It wasn't just Tang. It wasn't just Tang, but they've helped us develop. They've helped on so many medical fronts that people don't understand. We understand so much more about muscle deterioration as you age, the function of the brain, and learning these things from how we survive in a weightless state. You might think to yourself when you go to visit your local doctor, well, how does that? I'm not weightless, obviously. That's not almost exactly the point. It's the study that we do. It's the study that we learn along the way about our body in these different conditions that we can bring back home and spread. But I don't want to, before I forget, I missed my reset at the bottom of the hour, but before I forget this question, because I think I might have had a smart question, so I don't want to lose it. It happens every now and then. You mentioned earlier, as we've been talking about this changeover, that the private sector needs to invest. We need the private sector to invest. We do a lot of history on the program. Franklin Roosevelt, when he was trying to institute the New Deal and came into office at the height of the Republican Great Depression, approached private industry to say, we need your help here. You've got to hire people. Now we're talking obviously about 1933.
Right.
Telephone companies, we need you to run lines into these areas of the country where it doesn't exist and put people to work. Power companies, we need you to run electric lines. We need water companies to run sewer lines and water lines to places that didn't have them. And the private sector said no, because it isn't profitable. So Franklin Roosevelt, looked, for all intent and purpose, looked them in the face and say, fine, get the hell out of the way and I'll take care of it myself, and did. And that direct government money, that direct spending, government money directly into people's hands that they then spend. An economy works on the ripples of money. We know that. You can't hoard it all and expect an economy to function. It's why our economy doesn't function right. You have to, you work a job, you work a job, I work a job. We take that money and then we spend it on things, whether it's groceries, car repair, since we're talking about that. We buy homes. Remember when we used to buy homes? We hire painters, we hire landscapers, we get new appliances, we do, and then the person that sells the appliances takes the money and then they pay the rent on the building, or they bring in new inventory to sell. And then that person moves, and then that money has to ripple through. So what is the Commonwealth's government, or even arguably, maybe even more arguably, the United States government to say, fine, you don't want to solarize these places? And by the way, I think there's companies that would do it, but if you don't want to solarize these places, or you don't want to bury power lines underground, so that we had 8 tornadoes here last week, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to bury these power lines. You don't want to put those solar covers in your car park or on your warehouse. Then get the hell out of the way. We'll do it for you. Where's the line for you, in your opinion, as a legislator, between private sector, we need your help, and if you're not, get the hell out of the way, or we can't do it without the private sector? Where do you fall in that scale?
Well, let's take this from the 30,000 feet up, and then we come down to Pennsylvania, which will say 15,000 feet up. You know, President Biden right now is pushing the infrastructure plan.
Mm-hmm.
President Biden's argument on this plan, and it's a strong argument, is that we will put hundreds of thousands of people back to work in high-paying, good-paying jobs. Now, again, we look at bridges across our country, roads, everything you mentioned, that 100 years ago, almost, that President Roosevelt did, every one of those is in need of repair today. So we are coming off the greatest.
Well, Pennsylvania's infrastructure condition, we're in the 40s, I think, as a state.
It's terrible in Pennsylvania. We have some of the worst bridges in the country in Pennsylvania.
I think we're at 42-ish.
Yes, we're toward the bottom of conditions. But we're coming off something that's so close to the Great Depression that no one used those terminologies because of a worldwide pandemic. No one's fault, but just what happened. That we are at that same place almost that President Roosevelt was at the end of World War II. That this is the moment, you know, when they say, is there a moment in history that's defining? This is the defining moment. That we finally see representatives and senators from both sides of the aisle going, well, we don't want to give Biden a win, you know, from the other side, but you know what? We could turn this on and say that this could be a win. So how do we look at this in Pennsylvania? We just had a $10 billion budget surplus. Now, $3 billion of it was from the budget surplus. Last year, $7 billion was from the federal government. I voted no on the budget. And even though the governor supported it, I respect the governor's decision. But my vote no was because we did not invest in Pennsylvania. Well, we're going to talk about education, which is a big part of why I voted no, but we didn't invest in our industries. We didn't invest in our properties. We took a lot of that money and we put it into a rainy day fund, which is a wonderful thing to do. We need to have money for the future, for those times that are down. But the irony is we had 8 tornadoes here last week in Bucks County and somewhat in Montgomery County and up by your way. Yeah. We went through a year of tornadoes every day for our businesses. You know, my thing was myself and Representative Pam Schneider from Greene County, 4 weeks into the pandemic, we came up with a bill to help our restaurants and our hotels and our small businesses. The bill never ran. Why didn't we take $100 million? Why didn't we take $1 billion of that and invest it right back into our businesses and our communities? And the caveat could have been, you could apply for XYZ, you need to hire XYZ, you need to do XYZ. So maybe part of it was you need to improve your business by going 15% greener than it is and hire 15 more people. We had a golden opportunity and still have a golden opportunity to do the right thing to reinvest in Pennsylvania. I remember going over as a kid the Tappan Zee Bridge in New York.
The original
Well, I remember-
Tappan Zee, yeah.
You
The
remember
original one that actually started to fall into the river,
Right.
by the way.
And then
Yeah.
driving.
And if you've never been there, the Hudson River at that point, by the way, the Tappan Zee is the original bridge. Or at least I believe it, the original bridge. I think it goes back to 50s, if I'm not mistaken. It isn't there anymore. They actually did. There was a proposal to keep the original bridge and make it a pedestrian and a greenway. For whatever reason, that decision was abandoned. It was going to be pedestrian, bike, maybe small, obviously anything that's not a car or truck, and filled in with greens, by the way. And if you've not been to that area, folks, by the way, that connects Rockland to Westchester County, inside New York State, across the Hudson River. And the Hudson River at that point is properly wide. The Tap was a big, bloody bridge. And the new Mario Cuomo Bridge that now runs alongside where the Tap used to be is also a properly big bridge. So we're talking about quite a span here. We're talking about something along the lines of the Delaware Memorial Bridge, perhaps.
Oh, it probably is bigger than that. And to think that bridge, that one bridge in the state of New York, I think ran somewhere between, and you may want to look this up to see if it's right, but $4 to $6 billion for one bridge in one state. $1 billion. I think it was a 4 to 5 year plan. It had hundreds of people working on it. The amount of people we put to work, the amount of money that came into the industry, the amount of money that came into those communities. Now we start looking at our own state, which we have combined through the whole Northeast, some of the most highway miles and roads. When you combine, I think the whole Northeast Pennsylvania has the equivalent to the whole region. Think about how much money it'll cost us to redo our roads and bridges. I live off of Route 422. You're up off of what, 363 or 663?
No, the
Oh
closest biggies to, well, we actually got quite a spaghetti bowl here. I'm in Lower Saucon Township, Hellertown, about 5-ish mighty minutes south of Bethlehem, if that means anything to you. So we've got 7822. Our own main street here in Hellertown, which is PA 412, is the 3rd or 4th busiest road in all of Northampton County. We're not far from 378, 309, 100, 29.
Right, so you got some
on and on and on and on. 33, my goodness, what 33 has.
And every one of those roads, whether they're big or small, has little overpasses that you're going over, big overpasses. Each one of those costs millions to replace. And so many of those need to be replaced. If we would have taken the money and put it into infrastructure, that would have brought more money back to the Commonwealth between taxes and investment. The big question always comes up, you want to raise my taxes. There isn't one legislator on either side of the aisle who ever wants to raise taxes. And I spent 12 years on a school board. Maybe that's how we can transition into the education to help you. But we raise taxes. And what did we do when we raised taxes? We used the money the right way in order to improve the educational quality for our students and our community. And we saw the fruits of our labor as we went down the road. Our district became one of the top districts in the Commonwealth, in the nation, was praised. Our community home values went through the roof. People wanted to move to the community. Businesses wanted to come here. So we saw how this all works. When you do it right, when you invest the right way, and there's no right or wrong, it's a conversation. But when we invest in our state and our Commonwealth and our communities, you can reap the rewards. You know, I don't know if you know this, one of the top industries in Pennsylvania today, and there's an argument between which one, if you ask Eddie Brzezinski, he'll tell you one, Mary Jo Daley would say the other, but I say it like that because it's either agriculture or tourism. They're both in line with each other, yet we're not investing enough in either one of those areas to make it grow even more. So I'm sorry to get off on that tangent.
No. Well, look, again, we're Kristen and I here in Lower Saucon Township, we're a whopping 5-10 minutes max south of the center city of Bethlehem, which I'm sure you've been to,
Yep.
in your travels, and especially, and you've probably been to the old Bethlehem Steel property.
Yes.
Just the fact that we have to say the old Bethlehem Steel property is depressing to an extent in its own way. When we talk about tourism or the reinventing, recreation of a community, is there a better example in the entirety of the Commonwealth than the city of Bethlehem, which had, by the way, and I was going to Moravian College then, right when the steel was, they were just about done. They were only working when they had orders, and then they were only working first shift at that point, and they could go for weeks and not do a damn thing. And if they got an order, then they cast it and made it. And that's pretty much where they were when I was there. The south side was so dangerous, you didn't want to go there during the day, in the heat, in the middle of the day. And the center city, the north side, where the what is now the gorgeous Hotel Bethlehem now sits, or has always sat since the 20s, but that was always on the brink of disaster. The Moravian Bookstore and Central Church, of course, in the South Campus of Moravian College were there, but there was almost nothing else on the entire block of what is now, one of the most picturesque places, and a place that Chris and I could go to every week and not get sick of. And this is a city that completely reinvented itself. They looked, after the steel was gone, kind of looked themselves in the mirrors and said, and to be fair, mayors and council people of both parties, under state governments of both parties, under federal governments of both parties, looked themselves in the mirror and said, okay, right, what do we got left? Lehigh University, Moravian College, and our history. And played on all three of them. Hey, colleges, hey, Moravian, Lehigh, want to expand? Have at it. Whatever you need, we're right there for you. And we're one of the oldest settlements in the United States. Well, okay, a lot of those buildings are still here. Let's work on that. And now, which I will invite you to again before the end of the program, Music Fest is happening now.
Yes.
There was no Music Fest last year, but the previous year, I believe, set a new record for 1.3 or 1.4 million visitors to a city of 80,000. So when you talk about tourism, yeah. And by the way, tourism is arguably, tourism and farming arguably can be actually environmentally friendly type industries.
Well, absolutely. And you could use them all environmentally friendly. I mean, you're right about Bethlehem. Bethlehem reinvented itself. And as a matter of fact, I cut the article out about Music Fest with my wife and said we need to pick some dates. I'm on the Council for the Arts of the state.
If you come to Music Fest, I very softly and friendly with a smile demand that you tell me when you're coming so that we can go there.
Probably going to be sometime next week. We're probably going to come because I've always wanted to come, and more so now. And my good friend who lives up there, Steve Samuelson, who's the representative, great guy. Steve is a great legislator and has done great things. He and his colleague Bob Freeman, who's right next to you.
I know Mr. Freeman quite well. He's one of the two genuinely good gentlemen you're ever going to meet.
Exactly.
I mean, truly, he's just Absolutely. A good, decent man.
He's a great man. Both he and Steve, they're almost like twins. We laugh a lot about them because they're a lot alike, but very driven and think about the Commonwealth. But, we have an obligation to invest in the state. And when you have this type of money, you have an obligation to take part of it and invest in the state. You need to save some, of course, for a rainy day, for future issues you may have, but we need to invest. And that gets to education. You just mentioned, two of the colleges. Mm-hmm. Pennsylvania is going through an issue with education. I think that the biggest issue we face as a Commonwealth is public education. Most of your tax dollars are to public schools. People are constantly yelling about how high their taxes are, their school taxes are. Well, if we do it right, we can have our cake and eat it too. We can find a way to freeze our senior citizens' taxes at a certain income level for a certain period of time and still have high quality education within our schools. You brought up, want to talk about fair funding. My district that I represent has the 5th most underfunded school district in the Commonwealth, which is Pottstown School District. underfunded by nearly 13, sometimes $14 million a year. Their taxes in Pottstown are through the roof. And it's a cycle. If your taxes are so high, your property values are low, and no one wants to buy there because your taxes are too high. So now you end up with blight and issues that come there. So what do you do to correct it? Well, we've got to find a way to lower their taxes. Now the level up helped somewhat, but it wasn't enough money. It was, you just scraped a little ice off, but you have 3 feet of ice below, but you maybe scrape 3 inches off. The fair funding formula will equal it out. Having said that, and you stop me wherever you want, but we have legislators on both sides of the aisle that will have districts that will lose money under the fair funding formula. But let's say, what is losing money? You have been overfunded for years, meaning you've been getting too much money.
Let me stop you there. You said I could, so now I'm going to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's your show. I'm our guest of yours.
Yeah, but you're doing us the favor. Close your eyes. You'll see how much I paid the rep for his appearance today. Except I'm going to buy you a beverage, adult or non-adult, as you were, when you come to Music Fest. And by the way, I sent you the Music Fest app.
Okay.
To your Facebook Messenger because it's over a week from today.
Okay.
Just an FYI. It ends on the 15th of August. So that's 7 is 15. No, it's long, but it's over a week from tonight. So that's okay. When you said that to me, I'm like, I don't know if that's right. How anachronistic is, okay, let me back up. The history of using property taxes to fund education has its roots in, sadly, in several different, it has feet in several different pools, if we could say that. Race, class. If we create a system where we fund public education strictly through property taxes, well then the poor cities, the poor towns, the poor villages, in some places in Pennsylvania, literally the quote unquote one stoplight, one stop sign village, they stay poor because they don't have the property values to pay for it. Meanwhile, in the upper crust, dare I say the collar counties or the suburbs of the bigger cities, we're sometimes dead in those cities because there's some wealth there too. Well, we can fund anything we wish because we have the property values to do it. Or the places that have large business presences, where I'm always reminded of East Hanover, New Jersey. Route 10 has every possible retail thing you could imagine on it. They pay so much of the borough's taxes that the residents actually have a pretty low rate. It's a bargain to live there, and there's not a lot of bargains in New Jersey. How anachronistic is the property tax to fund education? Generally speaking, and keeping in mind, the party opposite from us loves to drag this out of the closet every now and then, especially when they need people to get pissed off enough to go vote. We want to eliminate property taxes for you as a funding formula for schools, except that we're going to raise everything else, and it's still going to be massively disproportionate effect on poor and middle class people. So how anachronistic is the property tax, and how much hot air, I was going to say something else, but we don't swear on the program, how much hot air are these wonderful plans to save us all from the property tax?
Well, look, I'm all for finding a way that we could eliminate it and still keep quality public education. What the failure, I think, possibly of House Bill 76 was, and possibly still is when you base your tax structure on sales tax, and you have, or income tax, and you have a drop in the economy, now you have a drop in the funding of public education. So there's no consistency. That's what the issue is. Not that you shouldn't live within your means. We hear that argument 24/7. You got to live within your means. That's great. But when you run an institution, you have to have a consistency of income. Can we lower the taxes?
Isn't that such a complete? I'm risking dragging this off the question I just asked you, but I get absolutely, I border on apoplectic when I hear that from the right. You have to run government like a business. Government is not a business. Government does not have a profit motive. It is the institution, perhaps the one institution that can continually, and actually economies do better when it runs in deficit. The only time that the federal deficit has ever been completely 100% paid off was back during the Andrew Jackson administration, and he caused one of the greatest economic calamities in the history of the country. It was a proper depression, which then led to several wars after. Government is not a business. And oh, by the way, businesses don't create and or mint currency. They do not regulate currency. Now, the Commonwealth does not do that either. The United States federal government does. We don't have a Commonwealth currency. Well, not anymore, not since the Articles of Confederation, but we don't have our own currency. We don't set the value of that currency. We don't mint it. Well, we mint coins in Philadelphia, but you get my point. So government is not business. They're not the same damn thing. In fact, they might be as far away from each other as possible. And business, by the way, fears government because government is the one institution with the power to protect us from the excesses and abuses of private industry, which drags us. I didn't mean that when you said that government should run, I get mental when I hear that. It makes me crazy because it's so fundamental. This is civics, damn it. This isn't high economics. This is basic economics. Governments and the private sector are not the same damn thing.
No, not at all. And when you look at public education, you said that some communities can't afford it, others can. Everything is relevant. I've been often heard saying recently, the way we pay our staff in our office is every staff member across the Commonwealth in every office, whether it's Republican or Democrat, makes about the same amount of money. But my argument is, how could I pay someone in the middle of the state where they can buy a home that, an average home costs maybe between $150,000 and $175,000, as opposed to in Montgomery County where an average home costs between $300,000 and $400,000, the same salary? Because in that other district, their salary of $30-something thousand a year is much higher than what I'm paying in my district. So it's the same thing when we look at the cost of education. It's relevant to what you're paying. Lower Marion School District, which tends to be a wealthier community, spends more money on paying their teachers than they do in somewhere in Elk County. But the cost of living is different. So if a teacher starts in Lower Marion, and I don't know the exact number, let's say it's $60,000, you can't buy a home in Lower Marion for $180,000. No. So we need to look at the way that balances.
I work in Horsham. I've seen all those communities. No, you can't
definitely
afford it. You can't afford a hell of a lot down there for that kind of money.
No, and that's one of the issues is. And when we look at it that way and say, okay, then the community also decides. Now, some communities have industry, and industry is a great factor. But that gets back to investing in the Commonwealth. We can bring industry to some of these communities that don't have it any longer if we incentivize to bring them, if we invest. One big initiative I have, and I pray that the Biden infrastructure plan passes because there is a great possibility this will have, is to restore commuter rail that once ran through Pottstown. Pottstown was a hub.
And by the way, you used to be able to get to New York City and Philadelphia strictly on rail from the Lehigh Valley.
Absolutely.
By the way, Rep, I don't have to tell you this, is roughly just under, by the way, not above it, just under. First off, we're home to the third largest and eighth largest municipalities in the Commonwealth, Allentown and Bethlehem, respectively. And oh, by the way, just under 800,000 people here. We do get properly overshadowed by Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, but can you imagine getting a little hyper local here for our global audience, but could you imagine? And by the way, our global audience, if you're in Europe, Australia, even parts of South America, you understand. You can get on a train. You can get on a train in Manchester, England, and never get off till you hit Moscow. Can you imagine the economic growth that would be generated? And good economic growth, quality, union jobs, green jobs, quality, sustaining, long-term, well-paying jobs. If we could just restore commuter rail to the Lehigh Valley so that you could actually get to Philadelphia again from Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton, Hellertown, Nazareth, or east into the northeastern sections of New Jersey and New York City. Which, because I'll tell you what, a good number of them are already doing it, except they're driving.
Yep. Well, that's the environmental impact that every train I think could take 5,000 cars off of a highway. Well, we're looking with our area to restore the Reading Railroad. Everybody knows the Reading Railroad.
They
You have to
do.
get the Reading Railroad, get the 4 railroads in Monopoly. We all know the Reading Railroad. That's the line for restoration. In the Lehigh Valley, that train, including Reading, will go to Manhattan. You can live in Pennsylvania and work in New York if you choose to do that in Lower Manhattan or Philadelphia. This gets back to the inequality in public education and in jobs. Right now, I rode the bus with a colleague of mine. We started in Pottstown and ended in Philadelphia. So we wanted to show what it was like for someone who lived in Pottstown to get to Philly to work. It took us 2.5 hours to ride the bus from Pottstown to the Norristown train station, get on the train in Norristown into Philadelphia. You know, these are why these communities are having issues. They don't have access to the cities. You start having access to the larger cities where people can go into work, then they have more money they can spend within their community. Businesses open, other businesses come in because now it's not as big that they got to drive the trucks and I can put it on whatever. You know, the people come in and out on rail. This helps public education. We restore a train to Pottstown, we will see a boom in that community like we haven't seen in 50 years. People will want to live there. They'll have access to good housing. It's a beautiful community. It's downtown USA. We tend to reinvent downtown USA when we have downtown USA. Same thing in Royersford. We have the same thing you have out your way. Reading.
Hellertown, Bethlehem,
Reading, Allentown, all those areas. Those were the heart and blood of the Commonwealth forever. And then when the industry dried up and the trains disappeared, everything dried up with it. And we saw the economies crash.
Not to, you know, a lot of people won't see it this way, but it's a family values issue. I drove to Center City, Philadelphia, to City Hall, actually, 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago, for a Medicare for All rally. Spoke there. It took me about an hour and 45 minutes by the time I parked to go 57 miles. Rep, I'm telling you, having done it when I first moved out here, I could drive 78 across to the Holland Tunnel and be in Little Italy for the San Gennaro Festival 77 miles quicker.
I drive to Harrisburg anywhere between, like I said, 90 and 110 miles or so, quicker than I could when I worked at the Kimmel Center every day in the Center City, which is 36 miles from my house. That is an embarrassment. That's a shame. Beyond the wear and tear on the roads, our public utility, our PennDOT, our police departments, our fire departments, the health issues that we all have from the frustration, the stuff you're eating because there's nowhere to really, you're throwing crap down as you're driving, the environmental impact. This is a no-brainer.
You're not exactly picking up an organic meal at a PA Turnpike rest stop.
No, not at all. I mean, apple, banana, and yogurt and stuff, but no, you're not really doing that. But
exactly.
This all helps to talk about our public education system and how it works and what we can do, and the opportunities also for our students. Now, I am a product of the New York school system. I grew up on Long Island, and one of the things we did there, I didn't take this class, but a lot of my colleagues did, is when you became a senior in high school, there was a class called Cities, and we all had access to the Long Island Railroad. and you learned all about Manhattan. And then for your project at the end, you had to go to 17 whatever different place and get back to the high school by a certain period of time and know that you knew the city in and out. Our kids don't have that opportunity here. Well, they're going to drive to Philadelphia, park somewhere for $25 would be cheap, $35, $40, you know, 2 hours in the car. And it's just, I don't know. I'm very passionate about restoration of rail. And you brought up Australia. When I got elected into office, we found by accident a gentleman named, and you should look him up, Dr. Peter Newman, who is an Australian professor at Curtin University. And he showed us a technology, came to the United States, came to Pottstown and presented, and we are still in touch. Unfortunately, they were going to come back with the pandemic, has kept them there, him and Dr. Charlie Hargrove. But showed us new and emerging commuter technology that's called a trackless tram, where you don't need to lay rail. They don't run on fossil fuel. It's all renewable. They go into a station and charge, and off they go. They can run on macadam. They can run autonomously. And what that would do is, if we can restore this rail, this is an option to look at. But to get from places that may be 5-10 miles away from the main train station, you can have one of these come in. So people say, well, a bus can do that. It's different than a bus. It rides like a train. It's much smoother, even though it has tires. And it's much cheaper. You can buy 3 cars for $6 million with an engine and a station. You can't do that in other areas. But again, this is back to what we said much earlier, is people don't always understand the technology, and there's a fear that, oh, now right now it's all made in China, which is a deterrent in America right now, but that doesn't mean we can't make it in America. But it talks about public transportation and the need to change the way we look at it. Because anyone that's been anywhere else in the world knows, you hop on a train and you're wherever you want to go, like you said. We need to restore that in our country again. And I pray again that this $1 trillion plan passes, because a big part of it is restoration of commuter rail.
I am long overdue to reset the program for you folks, so let me do that now. You are watching, listening live. It is August 8th, 2021 to the Kennedy Effect, and we are with you again. We are live. Our guest is Pennsylvania State Representative Joe Ciresi from the 146th District, the Montgomery County area, if you are familiar with a map of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A bit of a milestone here. He is the highest sitting elected official ever to grace us on the program, and we are beyond grateful for his time. Wherever you might be across the Facebook universe, stay where you are, enjoy, continue to watch, listen, whatever you might be doing in the background, dinner, laundry, gardening, or just sitting and relaxing and enjoying the program. We thank you. We could not be here if you are not there. You can stay exactly where you are, anywhere of the 80-ish, 100, whatever it is. I can't exactly see how many places we got shared to this week. Stay right where you are, or you can come to our home group Facebook page. That other side of information. A couple comments in there from Justin earlier that I wanted to present to the rep, and I will when I can. I will be able to see you. I will say hello to you. You can ask me questions. You can ask the rep questions. You can agree with us, disagree with us, yell, scream, show suggestions, or just tell me, by the way, how great Manchester United is. You're welcome to do that as well. Our sisters, brothers at hot101.net, thank you for being there with us yet again. We are proud and continually, always proud to be part of the hot101.net family. If you do not know how to listen to hot101.net, it is super simple. Go to the main website page, which is, it's right in the name, hot101.net. There is an Apple app, there is an Android app at the Google Play Store, or you can go to the TuneIn radio app and search for hot101.net. And you can now tell Alexa to play hot101.net. And to our new family, I believe we are in week 5, if I'm not mistaken, of our association and partnership with the family at TCP, the Cultured Professional out of Lancaster. We are happy to be there, both on their radio outlet, WTCP, and of course on TV, on their Facebook and their Roku channel. You can see the Kennedy Effect, I believe now on Tuesday evenings, because it takes a heck of a lot of time to send a 4-hour-long video file over the internet. As good as the internet can be sometimes, it takes an awful long time to send a file that big. So then they get it uploaded and all that fun stuff. So that's where we are. Rep, I did not get to ask you what is our traditional opening question. We're only an hour and 15 minutes in, so maybe I should get to that. And that is simply this: who is Joe Ciresi, and how did you get here?
So, where do I begin? Like I said, I was born in New York, on Long Island. Went to high school in New York. And at 17, went off to college on a vocal performance scholarship. Ended up at the University of Miami. I know a lot of your Penn State fans may not like that. Spent 4 years in Miami and became a business entertainment business major. Still with emphasis on vocal performance. Got involved in student government while at college. Met my wife, who was another New Yorker in Miami. She's from Central New York. Got married, had a family, and then had an opportunity while I was there. I worked for Playbill magazine, which is the theater programs that are known for Broadway and throughout the country. There was an opportunity to move to the local Philadelphia market, and we had a baby and thought, you know what, it'd be good to come back toward the Northeast to be closer to the family in New York. After we moved back, my son, I guess, was about 3, and I read an ad in the newspaper about they were looking for candidates for either township supervisor or school board, and I decided, I'll do school board, figuring I'd have a kid go through the school system. Ran for school board in almost all Republican board and got elected as a Democrat on an all Republican board. Was the only Democrat, and eventually became the president of the board and served 12 years. And then as I looked at where we were as a Commonwealth in public education, thought we need to change what we're doing. We need to change how we fund this. We need to change that. Every couple of years, we're changing everything we're doing. We're screwing up the teachers, and everyone's teaching to a book, a test, and decided that I would run for state office. By that point, I was at the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts, where I spent 17 years as the director of advertising and somewhat in the marketing department and sales, and thought, this is what I want to do. And when I won in 18, I lost in 16, came back in 18 and won, and gave up the job at the Kimmel Center, and obviously do this full time. I love the community we live in. We've lived in here in this house now 20 years, I guess in Pennsylvania, almost 21, 22 years. I love meeting with people. I don't care what party you are. I often say, people come in the office, well, I voted for you. Listen, it doesn't matter whether you voted for us, you're a constituent that we need to help. The hardest part of this position has been the pandemic. When we closed the state, there was no book. We were all in office a little over a year, a lot of us. We had to learn as we went. And I've been blessed that I've had an outstanding staff, who I will give a shout out to and always give a shout out to, but Alex Teplikoff is my chief of staff, Pam Hacker, constituent service, Mike Hayes, who's becoming a teacher. He's leaving us in 3 weeks, and you know Mike, a great guy, and I wish him luck at the Reading School District. Mindy Cherry, who has been a great staffer with us, and Tracy Glovier, who is another constituent service person. And we had Sarah Calvin, who left us, moved to New York with a husband and family. He had a great opportunity. But my staff works tirelessly to make sure that everybody has what they need. And again, it doesn't matter who, what, where, when, and how. It's our job to make sure you have what you have. So that's how I got where I am. I have a 22-year-old son. I've been married 27 years, 2 small dogs that are 13. And this week we decided, or wait, let me rephrase that. My wife and son decided, and I supported it, to adopt a cat, which has been a totally different animal experience than the 2 dogs that we've had. We had 1 dog before that. We've never had a cat before. So he's a great cat.
I have had 1 dog in my time. I had to say goodbye to her a long time ago. I think about her every single day. And I've had 5 cats.
Wow.
And through the course of my years, they are very different.
Oh, I mean, I'm sitting on the chair yesterday.
They're so very different.
This thing jumps on me and I jump, and dogs were never like that. It scared the heck out of me. And the cat's just like looking at you like, whoa.
Before I get into one of the topics that I really wanted to get into, I want to get to the comments that are here on Facebook, because I'm so desperately, folks, you know I say this to you every single week. I love NPR. I do love NPR, but NPR can be a little lecture-y. We are not here to lecture you. I will open the phone line later in the program, and you can always get to our live chat on Facebook. That other side of information, you can tweet me, you can email me. There is no shortage of ways that you can get to me during, right now, live, while the program is happening. So please do so. If you have questions, if you have comments, the easiest place to do is go to the home group Facebook page, that other side of information. Put them in the comments. I will see them. I'm watching the Facebook. I'm talking to the rep. I have a fancy Google machine in front of me so I can check myself if I think I'm way off. And yet another device off to my right where I'm watching the Facebook feed to make sure that I see you. So please go there if you want to become part of the program. And we desperately want you to do that. I am not here to lecture you. I'm perfectly capable of it. You know that I've sat here and talked for 4 hours without a guest. I'm perfectly capable of doing so, but that's not why we are here. Justin says, how about pooling property tax revenue and evenly distributing it to schools throughout the Commonwealth? Rep, what says you? And by the way, might I add, because when I was on a school board in New Jersey, I was elected to the school board in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, where I was born and raised. I was the youngest elected official at the state at that time. It was I came to the conclusion, and I think I still believe this to a very large extent, that quite possibly one of the only ways to equal education, and this is going to be, a lot of people are going to take this controversially because it is kind of antithetical to how we are as Americans, is to have one school district. And that district would be the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which we might still have local school boards as far as how to spend their particular allocation. I'm not even sure that's 100% necessary, to be honest. And I know that's going to tick off a lot of school board members. I was one too, by the way. I just said that, and you were one as well. But is that ultimately the way to really equalize education across the Commonwealth, is to have one district?
Still on. Sorry, my son's asking me a question.
Oh, no worries.
I think the cat just snuck in the room, so if you jump.
Don't worry, mine may be in here before long. They've made several appearances, by the way.
Yeah, he's walking out. That's a good. All of a sudden, I'll jump and.
I think my question probably bored him to death.
No, so look, again, back to what we said before. Utopia would say, yeah, that is the way to go. I mean, everything's under one superintendent, one whatever. In reality, it doesn't work. We are a Commonwealth, which gives more authority to smaller government and more authority to local government. We've proposed a bill called the Back Office Reform that says, can we merge certain aspects of the districts to save money, to pool our resources together? The IUs tend to do that, but we're talking about, do you both need a director of transportation? Do you both need a head of cafeteria service? Do you both need a curriculum director or a CFO? Can we look at districts? Former Governor Ed Rendell talked about merging school districts, and that went over like a lead balloon. In other states like Florida, you have county school districts where you pay a county board and it costs a different factor. Can we pool all the money together and distribute it evenly? It's never going to happen, because it goes back to what we said before. Your Collier counties, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, the cost of living is much, much higher. So you'd have to find where the balance is, how much people get. And they say, well, why aren't we getting our fair share?
Or yet another, some type of formula or something.
Right. This is what I have proposed, and you can see it. I've put out there that I'd like to do a listening tour throughout the Commonwealth. Come back with input from 4,500 board members, from teachers, from superintendents, and say where we should go as a Commonwealth for the next 25 years. So we build out our plan. Right now, we're willy-nilly in so many ways that it's become crazy. Keystone, should we have them? Well, they're right. This week we're going to have them, next week we're not. So the teachers are all over the place. The way we grade our schools, well, we're going to grade now, we're going to switch now over here. Well, wait, this is crazy. We need to come up with a plan that works, that we can look at. When Pennsylvania scores at the bottom for not only funding of public education, but what we're doing, That's a problem. When we're one of the larger states, we should be at the top for the way we do this. So I wouldn't say no to that idea that Justin brought up, but I would say it would need to be studied and how we can do it equitably.
Why is the merger of districts so controversial?
Well,
Right here in the Saucon Valley, there are two municipalities, the borough of Hellertown and the township of Lower Saucon, that combine for the Saucon Valley School District. The school district cycles through more money than either of the two municipalities put together. In my mind, again, and some folks will tell me I'm, what the heck kind of Democrat are you? A common sense one, for goodness sakes. That's what I am. I'm a Kennedy Democrat. I'm a New Deal Democrat, but some things make sense. And if our two municipalities, very similar, by the way, to how deeply, deeply intertwined Lehigh County and Northampton County are, and even though you don't live here, I think you know that we share a municipality in Bethlehem, by the way.
yes.
I don't know of two. I'm sure there are probably scores of them, but I don't know right here in the immediate Lehigh Valley of two municipalities that are more deeply intertwined than Hellertown and Lower Saucon. Seems to me we'd make one great, nice municipality because we already have one great, nice school district. So where do you see the pushback and the controversy about merging some of these districts?
Well, let's look at this way. You've got Gritty and the Fanatic, right?
Yeah.
Well, for whatever it is, say they were both equal teams and we merge them. Who are you going to keep? 50% are going to want to keep Gritty, 50% want to keep the Fanatic. Now, that's just that we can laugh about that, but that's a huge issue. My district 60 years ago.
We might laugh about it, but it's a really, dare I say, street level example.
And we are called
Pats or Geno's, Wawa's or Sheets.
Exactly.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So what do? So you merge Wawa and Sheets, and what do you call it? Well, Sheets. And who do you use? You use the bird that Wawa uses or the symbol that Sheets uses. So people are ingrained. I went to that high school. I went to that school district. I want my kid to be at the same district. So you say, okay, we're not going to do that, but we're going to look at how we bring costs in together. So one thing when I was a school board member that I did is I took all the municipalities, boroughs, and school districts, and we all came to a room twice a year and talked about how we can buy together, how we can work together, what we can do. When a construction project comes up for the school district to build, can we waive the fees from that borough or municipality? Because it's only coming back to the taxpayers anyway. So we're evening the playing field. I saw one of the questions come up on Facebook. That's why I went to that.
Oh, okay. No. Oh, good. You're watching. Okay, good.
I am. I think it's April's question with the fire departments and police departments. It's the same thing that we're looking at. Is how do we need to incentivize, and I know this may sound crazy, but we need to give money to places to tell them that you need to work together. So my proposal is to say, I'm going to give you, Jeff, and me, Joe, $100,000 to move a position together that we know we'll save money with, but I'm going to incentivize you to do it. I'm going to give it to you for 2 years, but you need to do it for 5 minimally. Otherwise, you got to pay it back. So then we know if this works. We helped you get there. We gave you money and we saved you money at the same time. And you go, yeah, we could do this. Where we have such an issue is our communities. Like I was starting to say that Spring Ford was a merger between Spring City and Royersford Ford 60 years ago. And you still have people who graduated, in their late 70s and 80s will say, I went to school in Spring City School District. I went Royersford, and we went to each other's football teams. And the merger back then was even controversial. So it's a way that you got to begin to find. Coming from Florida and coming to Pennsylvania was an eye-opener for me from the way things were done, and even from New York to Florida to Pennsylvania. So I got to see 3 different places. And I think it's a battle that we have to continue to work for and continue to work toward to save the money. But we need to keep the educational value, not only education as in schools, but education as how this would work as bringing people together and how.
I think we could learn so much from New Jersey. I almost can't even list all of that. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
we can
right
learn.
they're right next to us. And I get that they are not nearly, again, having lived a good chunk of my life there, they're not the same in the rural sense that we can be here in the Commonwealth, but there's so much we could learn from New Jersey.
We can. And I think
So much we could learn from New Jersey.
And you know what? We can learn from 49 other states as they all can learn from what we do too. And I think we need to be open to see what they're doing. Not only 49 other states, we can learn from other countries and what they do.
Agreed.
You know,
Western Europe, Scandinavian countries are the happiest on earth.
well, there you go. So how do we become those? So I think that we need to stop reinventing the wheel as much and look and say, what are they doing there? How does it work? How can we tweak it for our environment?
So do you look at the potential merger of municipalities in the same light? That it just
Absolutely.
boils down to that, no, darn it, I live here, I don't live there.
Absolutely. You have to look at how you can bring the two together. It's almost like a marriage. Sometimes maybe a forced marriage, or you fall in love with each other. We are starting on its own to see something that's a little bit of a phenomenon happening in Pennsylvania with fire companies. Fire companies are beginning to look at each other and starting slowly to merge. And why is that happening? Because volunteerism, unfortunately, is drying up. And in order to save these communities millions of dollars to pay a professional fire staff, they're starting to come together. And the cost of a fire truck, as well, you know, over $1 million, 1.5, 1.7. So it's becoming more and more of a burden. And they're looking to merge. We just had it happen in Limerick. We had Limerick and Linfield. They became the Limerick Fire Company and merged together. It's only been a couple of years. It's still an issue, but they're working through it. But that's, you know, we need to encourage and we need to help put these programs together.
April put another comment in that I did want to get to because we talked about it. Could we talk about the United States Department of Transportation requirements that are a barrier to expanding passenger rail? That you, meaning that you need rapid bus transit to meet the conditions and the need for investment from New Jersey, since we just mentioned New Jersey, as we talk about the rail line going into from the Lehigh Valley, let's say, or from the Poconos, maybe from Monroe County, into going east. Can you elaborate? You know, is New Jersey interested in such an investment? Are the feds interested in such an investment? Do you get help yourself, Rep, from your local congressperson, from Senator Casey?
Congresswoman Madeline Dean is our congresswoman, former state house representative. She's a great person and gets it and understands it. I think that through President Biden's plan, Amtrak is making a commitment, and it's Amtrak that's making the commitment. So they supersede the state, they supersede Norfolk Southern, Conrail, you know, whatever, the PATH, SEPTA. Amtrak makes the commitment to say, yes, we are going to have the rail run through all these areas, and we are going to invest in it. So that helps one of the barriers when you have a federal program that, you know, takes precedent over these other industries and the states when it comes to that.
Another question from Justin, because I know Justin, and I know that he's been a guest on our Revolution calls quite a lot, and I know that this particular issue is extremely close to his heart because he's living it. In our state minimum wage law, Section 4D, allows employers to pay workers with disabilities less than the minimum wage. A minimum wage, by the way, as we both know, that is still buried at $7.25. Even wages like 7 cents per hour. Would you be willing to introduce any legislation that would repeal this discriminatory piece of the minimum wage law? Not necessarily even something I would hope, by the way, that you could get some folks from the other side of the aisle and get their assistance on, not even a raise in the minimum wage itself, but a correction in this terribly discriminatory clause in the minimum wage bill that allows our unequally abled brothers and sisters and friends and neighbors and members of our community to be treated even worse than $7.25.
Yeah, and on that I have to say I'm not educated on that particular law, and I'm glad he brought it up. And feel free to email me at I think my email address. You think I would know it? Yeah.
Well, you can be found on Messenger. You can be found on Facebook Messenger. That's how I got to
Right.
Mike.
Or it's Rep Ciresi at pahouse.net. I couldn't remember if it was Rep J Ciresi or just Rep Ciresi. So it's Rep Ciresi at pahouse.net. These are archaic laws that really need to be changed. Times they were put in place were a different time in our nation and our Commonwealth. And we really need to review our laws more than every few years, constantly, to make sure that they're relevant. We still have an issue with what we pay women in the Commonwealth. You know, the discriminatory that women, it's not equal pay. Still, in 2021, we're still arguing about equal pay for equal work. How can that be? Forget about how low our minimum wage is. Completely forget about that.
I believe the national figure is, I believe, still at the 74-cent range.
The difference, yeah.
74 cents for every dollar
Yes.
a man makes. I think we're still 74 cents or
And
somewhere in that
minority
range.
women are even worse.
Even worse. They're in the 67-cent range
How can that be?
in
How
2021.
Right. How can we still be having this conversation at this time? I just don't get it. But we are.
Lisa D'Italia asks, "Hi, Rep Ciresi, are we going to mention the National Infrastructure Bank that we are all tirelessly working on?" And I have been, and that's the other place that I have been exposed to you, where I first met you, I would say, in this, as much as we can meet each other in this forum before I buy you a beer at Music Fest, the National Infrastructure Bank. Now, myself, I'm an advocate for the bank because I believe myself to be pragmatic. I happen to think that government should be spending money directly on these things and that we don't need this additional piece of bureaucracy and or this new structure. However, if that's what's needed to get the money that is needed nationwide, not even just here in the Commonwealth, although hell, if the Commonwealth wanted to create a Commonwealth Infrastructure Bank, I'd be damn happy about that too. But
Well, look,
where are you? You know, you have advocated for the infrastructure bank. Tell us about it.
I've been on the calls with Alfecca. I've been on the calls with Stuart. I've been on the calls with Stan. I'm constantly there. I am a huge advocate of this because I know that this bank will do what it needs to do for the nation and for the Commonwealth. It will. $5 trillion that they're asking for to filter through that bank at a 2% interest rate. All these municipalities can borrow at what they need. They can begin to do the infrastructure. This bank is what we need to do. This would be the 5th iteration of the bank, as well you know. The last time being under Roosevelt, the first time being under, everybody knows, Hamilton. The first and second Bank of America still sits in the great city of Philadelphia, in our state. And I think the second bank is even an empty building right now, which I said we could just move this bank right back in that building and put it in Philadelphia again.
Right where it belongs.
That's right. Bring it home. Bring them home. So I think that people need to be knowledgeable of this. And Alfecca is probably one of the most brilliant economists who is pushing for this. She knows her business like no other. I look forward to the day I get to Washington and meet her one-on-one. She's pushing really hard with Stu and Angela and everybody else involved in this. I had the pleasure to meet with Margaret Taylor when I was in Erie last week. It was nice to meet somebody in person rather than on Zoom. But everybody, Lisa, thanks for asking that. Continue to push it in your community. Let people understand it. It is something that we should see happen. But what I will say is that we don't want to stop President Biden's infrastructure plan where it stands right now. This plan has to happen. At the same time, so does the bank. If we can get both of them done, we'd be miles ahead of where we are.
The other big thing that I've had Alfecca on the program as well, and I've been desperate to get her back just to talk about the economy in general, and not just the bank. Although I'm happy to allow her to talk about the bank. I shouldn't say allow. I'm not the master of everything. I mean, she can talk about what she wants to. Before I get to the other big topic that I wanted to get to, we do know that infrastructure can return, for every dollar spent, it can return anywhere. And I know it's a bit of a wide range, folks, $7 to $12 back into the economy. And these are generally, not always, sadly, but generally union and high skilled jobs. And by the way, skills that are in decline and are in shortage. Carpenters, masons, electricians, metal workers. That guardrail on the side of the turnpike, the Northeast Extension, is not made out of balsa wood, I guarantee it. So are you able to make the case, especially to folks who might be skeptical or especially on the other side, that this is beyond, we have to look beyond the money that we're talking about. We kind of have to, you look at it as a total, as a big sack of cash, and it gets a bit scary. That's a lot of zeros. Do you normally or regularly, maybe is the best word to say, make that case that we have to look beyond that. We have to look at what those dollars are going to ripple into throughout the economy and the skills they will not only enhance, but create.
Right, and absolutely. I think that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle do understand that. Their question has been a lot of just how will all this work? Because remember, the communities that we're talking about, they are a lot of blue collar communities. And when they can put their people back to work because of an investment into infrastructure, that makes the whole better. That makes their communities come back to life. You know, Pennsylvania was built a lot on blue collar jobs. Like you brought up Bethlehem Steel, it was the industries, it was the manufacturing. And a lot of these towns have dried up because there is no more of those industries. When we invest in infrastructure, rebuild bridges, tunnels, waterways, you know, everything that goes with infrastructure, we're putting all these communities back to work. You know, I don't think there's such a great divide with our colleagues on the other side. I think that we just have to be able to sit down together and find the common ground rather than scream at each other. Let's get in a room together. Let's play ping pong and pinball. Let's play cards and get to know who Joe is and Jeff is.
Go to dinner, walk up and down,
right.
Walk on the riverfront in Harrisburg or what, you know, something.
Let's go to the fair in the middle of the state, you know, and the music fest and all that, and understand communities. So when we talk with each other. The old saying that when you work for a company and the executive is in the ivory tower and has no idea what happens in the field, one of the things I'm proud of that we did in our school district is we sent the board back to school. Every board member went back to school. Some people were in their 70s who hadn't been to school in 50 years. And we sent our administration back to teach once a semester because they had been out of it for a long time. So then we all understood why things were being asked for different ways. It's the same way when you become elected. We need to see each other's districts. I'd love to switch a district for a day with one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and see what they go through in their district. Answer the phones in their district, hear what they have to say. And you know, I've been talking to one of my colleagues over there about doing that, someone from the western middle part of the state. And together we'd be in the districts, but we would be like the rep of the day. That gives us a better understanding when we come to the table, how we speak to each other. So I don't think the barrier is as big as people think it is, if we can just talk about it. And I would hope that this is one that brings people together, because our vocational schools or career and placement schools would all benefit from this. And those students who are not college bound, but even those who are college bound, can still work in these fields and industries if we could just get this bank funded.
That kind of leads me almost very smoothly, sir. Thank you so very much. You made that.
Well, I'm trying to help. It's all you
into the other thing that I really wanted to discuss, and I suppose it's political, but I'm almost asking you in a bit of a, not overly personal. I don't want to delve into anything that is none of my business. I'm very curious. As polarized as the nation is, there may not be a place more polarized than the Commonwealth. We have exceptionally rural counties. I mean, we have counties where you can drive quite a long way and never see a soul. And sometimes not even just see farm fields, but just see empty space. And then we have what is the 7th largest city in the country?
Philadelphia.
I think it's 7th. I think it's 7th.
I think it was 5th, and then I think
Right.
we came Florida.
Atlanta has grown. Houston's
Yeah.
grown. Miami has grown.
Miami.
But so it's an exceptionally diverse state. And in fact, it's not technically or legally, it's a state, as we mentioned, it's the Commonwealth. So there is a very diverse set of folks that live here from every nation on earth. It's the same pretty much as the rest of the country, a very wide variety. You can walk the streets of Philadelphia and you can walk the streets of some smaller towns and villages and hear quite a variety of languages.
Yes.
There are large populations in the Commonwealth of Irish descent, that would be me, German descent, here in the Valley, Syrian and Lebanese descent, and all the way across the board. We are the most gerrymandered state in the country. We have the largest full-time legislature in the country. And by the way, I think the false argument of lowering that size is absolute bollocks, because when you put 50 kids in a class, they don't get a better education. They get a better education when you have less kids. So if you had less legislators, you're not going to get represented in better folks. That's a very simple one. That's another one that they drag out of the closet every now and then when they need to get people riled up. What is your day to day like? I can't imagine. I understand that you're in the House and this particular gentleman is in the Senate. If you pass a Doug Mastriano in the hall, I can't even fathom for the life of me what that chat, if it even exists, if he even gives you the time of day, because most people he doesn't give the time of day to. I can't even imagine what that chat is like, because he's properly out there. I mean, when you find yourself at and I don't know the layout of the Capitol except the outside of the building because I've protested there enough. I don't know what the inside of the building looks like, to be honest. But what is it? If you're sitting at the House cafeteria, let's just say, I mean, do you speak to each other? Is it acrimonious? Are they diehard believers in the most extreme things that we see them now spewing on a regular basis? Or in those quiet, private times, do you get a nudge with an elbow and go, don't worry about it, Joe, we know it's all BS. We're just playing to the base.
Well,
And neither of those, by the way, is a very nice scenario, but is there any light that you can shed without divulging anything that is too personal or too private or illegal for you to divulge? But is there any light that you can shed on that?
I think that, I don't know Senator Mastriano. I don't think we've really ever met. And truthfully, the senators have their own dining hall, so they don't dine with us peasants, as I like to say. With the House of Lords, without the commoners. I don't know what their thought process is when you do something of that caliber. What I do know is that when I sit in committee with people who may seem like extremists and we start to talk about things that will help and move forward, and we take away the walls of political difference, we can find the common ground. And when the two of us, meaning in the general sense, the two parties, sit and really listen to each other, we can find the common ground. Now, will we agree on everything? Absolutely not. But can we find the way that we need to move the Commonwealth forward? I think we can, but we have to take away the extremes. Do people play to their bases? We see it all the time. Not only do we see it in Pennsylvania, not only see it with the Republicans, we see it with the Democrats, see it on a national level. But when you do to put two people in a room that have no press, no anything, they can find the way forward. Where the senator's going, I don't know. That's a whole issue in itself. What the senator does, I couldn't speak to that effect. But I think that I try and see how we can work together, even when we disagree. Look, I have good friends who politically are completely different than I am. And we'll go at each other on that front, but then we'll come together also. So we've got to remember that we serve 12.8 million people. Whether we're a governmental body of 253 elected officials, that's excluding the governor and the lieutenant governor, of course, or we're 125, whatever it could be, whatever iteration in the future, we serve 12.8 million individuals. And we need to remember that they're as diverse as we are, and we have to find a way that we put our own personal feelings at times aside and say, what's for the betterment? Again, that may be a little utopia, but I think it can happen. And I know that I have spoken to people who are completely at the other end of the spectrum that I am and found common ground that we can talk about. We may never vote together on the floor, but there are things that when we listen to each other, we can respect and listen to. Again, I'm not speaking specifically about the senator because we have never met. I think once in some committee, we may have said something a year or two ago, but that he wouldn't know who I was if we tripped over him. You know,
There's some public, dare I say, extremist elements in the House. They're right there with you. When they had members that had COVID-19,
yes,
they intentionally, there's no other way to look at it, I don't think. And again, feel free to correct me, I'm not there. I'll take the invitation if you ask me, but I'm not there. They knew they had members that were sick. They knew they had members that had been around all of you when they had it and did not tell you. That's a conscious decision. How then? I know it's your job. So my question is not to say you shouldn't be doing your job. Of course you should be. But boy, you're a human being too, Representative.
absolutely.
You have a family. Do you not sit there and, you know, when you're talking to Representative X, you knew they had COVID, you knew they didn't tell you, and now he just wants to sit and talk about school funding with you. I'd be hard pressed not to stand up and go, wake up! You damn near got us all sick, and some of us who have pre-existing conditions, you damn near got us killed. What the hell are you thinking about?
Well, and that definitely needs to be said to them. But also think of it this way, and I'm not giving anybody right, because I did a whole almost 3 minutes on Facebook when we found out that information through the press rather than through, you know, the channels that we should have had. But think about this. Some of those people who you're referring to don't believe that this is any worse than a flu. Whether I don't agree with that by any stretch of the imagination, but in their heart of hearts, they don't think it's a big deal. Well, it's a huge deal. And by the time we left the house and came back, there were more and more.
Do over 600,000 people pass from the flu in an 18-month time? Not even 18 months, in an 18-month time period?
No, and you bang your head against.
I mean, dear God in heaven, what are we talking about?
Right? Can you?
This is why, Representative, values and faith and patriotism are not the exclusive domain of Republicans. And
No.
by the way, Republicans, and here's another theory I'll test out on the rep, and you certainly have no obligation to agree, you're not a political party.
No, what I
Are
do.
not a functioning political party. You are a corporation. You are bought and paid for. And the only platform that you work on a regular basis is how do we funnel more wealth to the people that own us? Your employees, that makes them the owners, and that makes you a corporation.
But we need to again be.
And you don't have to agree with any of that.
No, but we
I won't
need
get
to
you
be
in trouble.
aware. So what you said, that we need to be aware that we work for 12.8 million people, and there's been a lot of talk on, you know, who
You
funds
have
who.
members that are sitting next to you that are not working for those 12.
Well, and that's where the local electeds who elect them need to understand who they are working for. We took a national, again, a world pandemic and made it political. Nobody caused this. Nobody wanted to see it happen. Well, that's another conspiracy theory, but regardless, no one wanted to see this happen. What went on economically, but we have to stop it.
Yeah, but did anybody think? Well, I know people think. So that's a poorly phrased question. Does anybody with any common sense really believe that it was planned that over 600,000 of our fellow American citizens would pass, or that 50% of all the restaurants in the country would close and never reopen? This was a plan?
Well,
Oh, by the way, the flu's never done that since 1918.
right. Well, I would hear, well, the governor wants to bankrupt businesses. And I go, why would the governor want to bankrupt businesses?
For what possible reason?
You could be upset with the governor for whatever decision, and I'm not going to say where you should stand on that. But to me, that was always like, where is his side of this in a reward that he wants to bankrupt businesses? And I went toe to toe on a couple issues with him, as most everybody, the 203 of us, I think, did on both sides of the aisle. But when it came to the public safety, public health, this governor was right on top of caring about the public.
Oh, I had problems with the way with the dispensations he handed out, where you can stay open, but you can't. And you
right.
That
to me was
crazy. I didn't get. Why the hell was Walmart get to stay open?
Right.
When the 5 or 10 other small businesses that do the same damn thing, or at least some segment of it, you had to close and go bankrupt.
Exactly.
That wasn't straight. But at the same time, do we legitimately, honestly think the governor was out there to destroy these businesses and kill people? My God, it's madness. When
Right.
you're in the chamber, I know I keep asking the same question over and over again, and that's not actually kind of isn't my intention. I don't understand how do you do it? How do you do that when the other side, who by the way is in control out of strictly out of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
There are more Democrats in the state than Republicans.
Yeah.
They represent more geographical land, but less people, but there's more of them. I mean, how do you not just, I'm not suggesting you go over and slug somebody, but I mean, how does the frustration not bubble over? I don't know how you can keep your cool and sit on the other side of that table and say, we can fix this problem, let's talk. How do you talk to somebody who's not living in the same damn reality that you're living?
Well, that you just have to try and stay on the path. And you bring up gerrymandering, you brought it up a couple times now, and the correction hopefully will happen now for the first time. We'll see districts, my district's completely gerrymandered. You could be my neighbor and not in my district, which is, we're in the same town, same county, same everything. When I like to watch also when people get up to speak and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And how they take the vote and how the vote comes down and how it affects them. And I think that, you do answer to your community. Every vote is local. If that's what your community wants, if you want to remain in that seat, that's the way you're going to the floor. I have often said sometimes you have to make a hard call that people will disagree with you on because it's the right thing to do. COVID had no playbook, still doesn't have a playbook. We know certain things that we have to do, that we should be doing, but some places still believe it's not real. And I still have colleagues who I serve with, who I look at and go, do you want to die? You don't want to get vaccinated? Okay, whatever. You don't want to wear a mask? Well, then you're going to get it. And then what are you going to say? Well, my immune system is strong enough, and if God wants me, God's going to take me. God also created the vaccination, if you want to look at it that way. He gave his scientists the opportunity.
I thank, no pun intended, thank God that you said that, because I'm always fascinated. Similar, but not the same type situation. You will see NBC News dispatch a reporter to Nebraska. Although, by the way, they could dispatch them here now after a massive tornado that wipes out the entire town. And you'll see the one person who you knew probably didn't have two dimes to rub together in the first place. Well, thank God we're all alive. Didn't God send the tornado? Well, God's going to save me from this virus. Didn't God send the virus? Again, I'm getting very repetitive and I apologize. What these folks are not in the same reality. They can't be. Or if they are, then the checks that are coming to them are pretty damn big.
Well, and that's when you pay for the other side. All right, we'll go. I'll be out in a little bit. My wife wants to.
You go when you go when you have to. You've been
No, that's all
beyond.
right. I'll go, but if you have other questions, I'll give you another 10 minutes and then we'll go. But to me, I believe that we can, again, and I'm trying to be an optimist here rather than a pessimist. Some of these things have been horrible. I don't agree with where my colleagues are. I didn't agree on the 21-day limitation on the governor's order. I believe that maybe we could have gone to 60 days and found that, because in 21 days when this virus began, we had no idea where the hell we were. We were all over the place. 21 days is horrific.
So was a measure like that nothing other than icing on a cake, nothing other than window dressing? There was no real legislative or policy backing to any of that. That was just red meat.
Absolutely, because everyone was mad at the governor because unemployment was a disgrace. People were out of work, people were sick, people didn't know where to get masks. So right away, we did this.
An unemployment system that was decimated in the administration before his, by the way.
An unemployment system that had a computer system from the 1980s that should have been upgraded probably by this point at least 15 times, from when it was to where we finally got the upgrade. That's what we go back to where we talked about an hour ago. When you invest right, you pay less overall. When your roof has a leak and you fix it.
But when it comes to something like the unemployment system, do you not invest in it because you don't want it to work? Republicans don't want the unemployment system to work. They don't want the social safety net to exist.
That could be part of the issue. So when it fails, you say, see, we don't need this. When we needed it and still do need it, and we still get a massive amount of calls to our office for unemployment and helping people through that process.
There are folks in the Commonwealth who still have not seen a dime since the onset of this pandemic, March of 2020.
Yep, and we're fighting. Every office has been fighting that battle. So it does become frustrating, and you're right. I've often said to people, they'll say to me, well, if your district goes this way and this way, my district is purple. I won from a 14-year veteran who is a Republican, and I respect him, and I have held him in high esteem. He's a nice man. I have nothing to say that I'd say he's a terrible blah, blah, blah. But if you can't win your district after it's properly redistrict, whatever you want to say, then maybe you should be there.
As we saw with the U.S. House.
Yes, then maybe you should not be there. That's the way it goes. Should Pottstown be broken up? No. Pottstown is a borough of 5 miles. Yet we have 2 reps, almost 3 reps. For what? In that little 5-mile zone? Oh, somebody else is on.
I'll explain that later.
Oh,
it's a friend of mine. It's the only way. It's a friend of mine from our revolution. It's the only way he can take part in the program.
Well, that's fine.
Listen. He doesn't. I'll probably talk to him after you leave us. But he listens in the back. It's a technology thing and broadband, all that fun stuff. He listens in the back and he'll.
Well, you just brought up one of the things I'm surprised.
Broadband. I wanted to ask you about. Please go all you want about broadband, but I want to ask you on the lane that we're in at the moment about voting.
Yes.
This you want to call it a mentality, because I can't even call it a philosophy. Philosophy requires thought. This mentality that is coming from the other side now, that you didn't vote the way we like, so we'll just take that from you. Is it really anything more complicated than that, or am I oversimplifying it?
No, it's that too many Democrats came out to vote because we made it easier for them.
Under an Act 77, that was bipartisan, by the way, that
under an act that more Democrats voted against than for.
And now it worked against us as Republicans, so now we have to destroy that too.
Look, I know Democrats, I voted for it because I was part of the conversation in the room. And they got rid of straight ballot voting, and I took heat from my party. My district, I looked at it as it is what it is. I understood it in the cities, but what the other side was for us, and the reward was overall allowing more people to vote because they felt comfortable voting from their homes. To get rid of this completely is an abomination of our voting system. This needs to stay. Does it need tweaks? Absolutely. Everything needs tweaks when it starts out. We can fix things along the way, but to say it doesn't work, that's completely wrong. I have never agreed with anyone who's told me that the system was rigged or fraud. We know the system worked. It worked in our cities. It worked everywhere. Can we fix it? Can we strengthen it to make sure that it's more secure? Everything we do, you can look at after you've done it once or twice, say, okay, let's do this, 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 and this. To get rid of it completely would be an atrocity.
Are we looking at nothing more complicated than the old? I'm sure you've heard the clip or you've seen the video, and eventually one of these days I'm going to put the video up that I can access it very quickly. The Paul Weyrich quote. He was speaking to the evangelical in a church basement, by the way, in Dallas, Texas, in 1979, I think, at the very, very infancy of the Reagan campaign, and looked out upon the crowd and said, you folks believe in good government. You have what I call the goo-goo complex, good government. You believe in good government. You think everybody should vote. I don't think everybody should vote. In fact, our power, and I'm butchering the quote now because I don't know word for word, I'm paraphrasing. Our leverage in elections goes up as the voting populace goes down. Is that what Republicans are left with now? That if we can just return voting to upper class and rich white landowners, we might be okay.
I can't speak for what their thought processes are. I think that what happened was you saw a larger population of people who felt like they never had a voice now have a voice because they didn't have to take a bus or a train to go to the polling places.
Or time off of work.
Time off from work where they weren't being paid. If they were ill, they didn't have to worry about coming out, or if they were handicapped, where they were going to park. So where their thought process are on the other side, I don't know how it benefited one side or the other in Republican communities where people chose to vote by ballot because of those reasons. It was the same amount of people. So, how changing all this up makes it fairer? It doesn't. What we really
but isn't that exactly the point? It can't be about making it fairer. It cannot be about increasing voter participation. It has to be about suppressing it, no matter how they spin it. It has to be.
If we wanted to make it fair, we should have for the day of registration, you could register on that day and vote on that day.
Yep.
It'd be much easier. We have our generation that's younger than us in their 20s who eventually are going to vote on this. That's where they want to go. Or on what we're on right now on a computer. They don't want to go stand in a line for 2 hours. When Trump ran in the 2016 election, it was a 4-hour wait at one of the polls I was at.
Here in Pennsylvania.
Yes, in my district. The helicopter was circling the whole time. How many people are going to wait 4 hours to vote? So this made it a lot easier. Now, again, are there processes that can be cleaned up, changed slightly to make it more efficient? Absolutely. And that's what we should be looking at. And the governor said it, our party said it, even some of the Republicans said it. Instead, we're doing this whole blow it all up and start over and let's go back to the archaic way.
And use that blow up as a reason to cut people out of the process.
Yes.
Let's just move on.
That's one, the fundamental right of every American is the right to be able to vote. We should make it easier rather than harder.
And by the way, the right to vote is codified in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
The 14th Amendment grants the right to vote that all other citizens have as one of the post-Civil War amendments. It's the amendment that granted the right to vote to former slaves. Let's be, there's no way to dance around it. But the wording of that amendment extends the right to vote to that population. That presupposes that the right already existed.
And we should be doing everything in our authority to make sure that every single American who wants to vote is able to vote in every single election.
And the preamble to the motor voter bill of 96, I want to say, in the Clinton administration, the one that allowed you to register to vote at motor vehicle
Right.
when you were getting a license. The preamble of that legislation says that Americans fundamentally have the right to vote, and that legislation has not been challenged.
Right. And then I think that we are going to see something. Don't know when, because I don't know if we have the time as a legislative body to change anything before the 22 election. But we need to stop the rhetoric and look at this and say, okay, where are the deficiencies, the real deficiencies? Where are the things that we can add to this? How can we make it more accessible to everyone?
But what about the silly old concept of, I don't know, having policy positions,
Well,
providing leadership, going out into the community and saying, no, I happen to think Rep. Ciresi's wrong on this issue. I think, you'll have a Republican opponent. What about what a crazy idea that Republican opponent stands next to you on a stage in a room full of people and says, I think the rep's wrong on this issue. I think my position's the better issue. And you look back at him and say, sorry, I think you're wrong on this issue. But you're standing up here running. You're a good individual. You're trying to serve your public. I just disagree with you. I think you're wrong. And that's why I worked on this and this and this. What a crazy old-fashioned idea that the party opposite would actually go out and campaign and stand for something.
but what about the two of you standing on the stage and going, I agree with that?
That's even better.
Just saying, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's work on together. But this is where we disagree. What happened to the days when you'd be able to give credit to someone who had a great idea instead of, well, you're a Republican or you're a Democrat and I'm the opposite, so I can't give you credit. Give credit what credit's due. So then, wow, you really just give me credit? When I ran, and I'm going to get off because I'll probably get a pan across the head in a minute, or the cat will be let in, one of those things. When
I'm waiting for mine to show up.
Exactly. In 18, and it was raining, and I was at a function with my opponent, and we're under the umbrella together. And a reporter came over and said, are you two not running against each other? And I looked at the reporter and said, yeah.
Just because you're sharing an umbrella.
You're sharing an umbrella. So what? We're two human beings. What does that mean? I mean, like I said, when we started about family doesn't agree. Doesn't mean you have to hate each other. Doesn't mean you can't be open to hear what they have to say. And I invite my predecessor to call me anytime. I remember saying, is there anything you were working on that you want me to continue to look at? I'm more than open to do that if it helps our community. That's all that matters. That's what we need to get back to. This rhetoric is insane that we're in right now.
It leads me to, again, I'll be repetitive for the regular viewers and listeners. I might even make Kristen's head explode. One of my favorite thoughts, it's not an exact quote from President Kennedy, is that politics can and should be a noble profession. And it can be again. I have dreadful disagreements with Republicans. All that I have them on this show. I haven't exactly been kind to them throughout our discussion here tonight, but it should be about what you just said. Isn't it about public service? Politics can and should be a noble profession. I think we can restore it to being a noble profession again.
So I'm going to promote one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle's bill. Wendy Thomas from Bucks County has a bill. She had a bill when we first started, term limits. I agree with Wendy 199% on this. You need to limit the time. And her bill said that representatives will go for 4 years, 3 terms. Senate will go for 6 years, 2 terms, and you have to cycle off and you can run again. I think that's the best way to go. I would applaud her. I always talk about it. I think I talk about more than she does. This bill. It is.
Well, she's welcome to come here and talk about it.
There you go. She's closer to you than I am, distance-wise.
She's welcome to come on here and there's not a Republican in this country that is not welcome on this program.
Well, I mean, I applaud that whole idea. I wish that while I'm a legislator, we see that happen, because I think it takes down a lot of the rhetoric when you start to do that.
I hope that you will. I know you said that you have to go have dinner. You have been beyond kind with your time, and you are the first sitting rep
I'll
to sit with
I'll
us.
have to talk to Steve and Bob and tell them, you're close to this
Well,
guy. You gotta
please.
get on this program. And Maureen Madden up in Monroe.
Absolutely. Anybody, any of the 4 from Lehigh County, because none of them will come here. None of them will come here. I certainly don't think I ambushed you with any questions that you were treated unfairly.
No,
I mean,
listen.
and I don't think you felt like you've been here that long. But what I want to do before you go is, again, what has become a bit of a standard goodbye, if you will. I simply don't have enough words to say thank you for you being here. It means a lot to us. I don't have advertisers. Everything I've done with this program's come out of my pocket. And I think it's exactly the kind of program that folks like you should be supporting. And you did that by coming here, and I'm eternally grateful. And I have bad news for you, sir. You are part of the family now. You are part of the Kennedy Effect family. I pray that this is not the only time that we will see you or hear from you. You have an open door here. If there is something that you need to talk about, if there's a piece of legislation that people need to know about, even if it's one of those gnarly, nasty pieces of legislation that people don't know about, hey, by the way, we're this close, folks, in Harrisburg, to taking this from you, or whatever it might be. You have an open door here. And I'm very serious. If you do come up to Music Fest, I do hope you will let us know, so that we can,
over dinner right now, we'll talk about if we're going to
so that we can see you. And I think, by the way, I think that's something that, at the risk of going down on a hole, that we don't do enough of. I mean, when you say that you shared an umbrella with your counterpart, I don't know that Ryan McKenzie is here in the Lehigh Valley too. Yeah. Why should we not be able, Kristen, myself, you, and Ryan McKenzie, walk around Music Fest just as people and not even get into any, I'm sure we'll get into some of it, but just enjoy some music and have a drink and share some food. Why do we not do that anymore? How is it that we don't do things like that anymore?
I think that people have forgotten that we are all people beyond anything more, that we're all people. We all say we're all Americans. And when the flag is raised, we all stand. I watched an old episode of Star Trek the other night. It was, I don't know, they went to a planet where the American flag is there, and they all got to attention when the flag walked in. We're all people. And I'll say this, and I'll say it over and over again, and it's not to promote myself, but I'll stand with any one of my colleagues. I'll go and have a drink with them, or a hot dog, or whatever. And you'll see me if there's a Republican there. I'll go right up to them. But we were at a community day yesterday, and I went right to the Republican members who were running and wished them luck. I was with the Democratic members, of course, but good luck. Thank you for your service to our community. We may not agree, but doesn't mean we can't be civil to each other. If you choose not to be civil, that's on you, not on me. And I think that's what we need to get back to, is being civil to one another and understanding where we all come from. It's the old saying, you pass somebody by who has a grumpy look on their face and they go, oh, that's a miserable person. Do we really know what happened to that person earlier in the day or earlier in their life? And then you begin to understand. What was it with what's the old fairy tale where they pulled the thing out of the lion's paw or whatever?
Oh, the thorn out of the
thorn.
Yeah. Why am yeah, it's a thorn that's stuck in his paw and he can't pull it out. It's
Isn't it a mouse?
a mouse. Gonna say
Mouse
it's
was
what would normally be prey. It
Right.
pulls the thorn out. Right. Exactly.
Right. And the whole disposition changes.
Right.
Understand people, understand where they're coming from, understand their background, and how to speak to each other as human beings, not as my enemy. Because we should not be enemies of the state. We should not be enemies of each other. We could disagree respectfully, but at the end of the day, I can't stress that we serve 12.8 million people, maybe a little bit less now, the population may have dropped, but over 12 million people in the Commonwealth. And that's who we got to look for. All right, on that note, I'm going to eat something for dinner. I don't know what it is.
Is there the last thing I'm going to ask you, the floor is yours. Is there anything that we did not get to touch on that you think is extremely important? Things that people should be looking for in the news? Look out for this piece of legislation or this bill or this vote. Is there anything that we covered that we didn't get, that you didn't get to fully explain? I simply want, and how do people find you? I simply want to just give you the floor, and please, any of that stuff.
Find me on Facebook. You can find me. I have a website, PA House Rep Joe Ciresi. I have a bill 272, which is to reform charter school reform. cyber and brick and mortar, which I'm praying that we are able to run in the fall. And then always reach out. And, you know, there's no opinion that's a bad opinion. There's no conversation that we can't have. As long as we're civil to each other, I'm more than welcome and open to hear anything anyone has to say. But understand I may have a different side of it. And it has nothing to do with you personally. It's just where my community is and what I believe. But I want to hear from people, you know, and my constituents know that we have an open door. And like I said, I can't praise the people who I work with more as my staff, who have been in the trenches for this last 17 months or so, and who have done an outstanding job with it. And my family, who's put up with me, obviously for 2 hours and 20 minutes, being on a call, and who are yelling about eating. But, you know, I'm more than welcome to come. I'm more than happy to come back on the show. And I would welcome you to the 146th district. Who's ever on this call, come to Pottstown, come to Royersford and Limerick, spend your money. We have the premium outlet mall here. We got great restaurants here. Come into our districts. We're on the Schuylkill River, walk the trail, come out here. It's a great community to be in, and tour Pennsylvania. You know, do a staycation in the Southeast, in the Northeast, in the West. We have a great state that we live in. I often say I chose to live in the state. I wasn't born here, but I chose to become a member of Pennsylvania and a Pennsylvanian, which this is the longest I've lived anywhere, and this will be the last stop on the road. But thank you for the opportunity. Nice to meet the both of you. You should have been on the whole time, Kristen. Where were you? Next time I want you to be on with us.
Well,
I will definitely do that. Apologies, it's called.
Well,
when they should have been watching, by the way. We'll have a chat with them later.
Right, but I'm hopefully going to be up your way next week. And, you know, we need more people to come in and spend their money in Pennsylvania, buy our products. And I know that we can find, when we get cleared from where we are right now as a country, and we can bring it back to where we can get to the work of the people and stop this crazy stuff that we're hearing, and work as Pennsylvanians rather than individuals with a political agenda. So thank you both. Good
Thank you. Thank you. Please come see us for Music Fest.
I will. I'll let you know what we're doing.
Thanks
Take
so
care.
much. And
Bye-bye.
thanks to the family for allowing you all the time.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye now.
It's
Bye-bye.
lovely to meet you, Representative.
Nice meeting you too.
That was Representative Joe Ciresi of the 146th District for a very long time. I think we got the rep in trouble. I think he was due for dinner quite a while ago, and we think we kept him for a long time. And I'll tell you what, that's a bit of a, I said this at the beginning, and I really mean it. It's a bit of a milestone for us. I have reached out to countless we have a lot of candidates, obviously. They need and want the publicity, and I can understand that when you're running, you know, that works. I get that. But we have reached out to sitting office holders quite literally across the country. I've even reached out to some outside of the country to come on the program and to talk to us. And Rep Ciresi is the first sitting elected official of his level to come and visit this program. And I really, really hope that he will feel good about the visit, that he was treated fairly, that we had an excellent discussion. And I hope he goes back to Harrisburg and tells everybody else, listen, and by the way, they know who we are. They do know the program. They know me. Many more of them know Kristen. But they know who we are. They know about the program. They know about what we're doing. And we simply need, you know, I hope that he's able to go back and tell them, look, it's fine. You're going to have a fine time there. Go and talk to them. It's great. So I hope that that is what happened. But, you know, even if that should not come to pass, I'm just thrilled that the rep was here. His staff, he is correct. His staff is absolutely top shelf. And it was Mike Hayes that I just sent a somewhat innocuous message on Facebook Messenger, just throwing a lot like fishing, I guess you'd say, which is not always the best way to look at it, but just to say, hey, we'd love to have the rep on the program. And it was Mike that got back to me and said, well, tell me about your program. And we had a phone conversation. He said, you know what? It's exactly what the rep should be doing. And I hope that other representatives, state senators, our U.S. senators, both of which I have invited, the governor, the attorney general, and people from other states. Again, there's no one that I have not invited to this program from both sides of the aisle. Yeah, you better believe I am a New Deal Democrat. You better believe I am a Kennedy Democrat, and I will stand by that 100%. There's a Republican that wants to come and tell me why I'm wrong, or tell me that maybe you didn't consider this. They are open. I have invited my own state rep, Maya Lou McKenzie, a Republican, to come on this program. Every month she sends me a newsletter. Every single month I respond and say, you have an open door on the program. Her son, Ryan McKenzie, Doug Mastriano has been invited on this program. Pat Toomey has been invited on this program. They won't come. They won't come because they think partially they don't want to face you. I just got a huge message. What is all that? Ken Heard. Struggle reading? I'm not sure what all that is. I would have to. That's a long one, babe. That's a long one. I will have to read that probably after the program. I can't read all of that right now. If you are with us on Facebook, let's do a little reset here. It is 7:26 Eastern Time. I'm coming to you from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley, in, as you have been listening, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania here in these United States. On this planet Earth, the only planet we have, a third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system. And this is the Kennedy Effect live for August 8th, 19. What am I thinking? 2021. I didn't have any big blow-ups throughout that whole interview. So for me to give you the wrong century, I'm giving myself a little bit of a pass on that one. What am I talking about? 19 something. What? 2021, August 8, 2021. The phone line is on the screen, wherever you might be, across the Facebook universe. Stay there, enjoy, hang with us until the program ends, probably at the top of the hour, or come to our home group Facebook page, That Other Side of Information, and talk to us. There has been some increased chatter in the comment section, and we love it. And as you saw, when I see something in the comments, I will bring it to the guest. That's the point. This is your program. Interactive, live, progressive talk and media, some of the only, if not the only, thing of its kind entirely in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. To our sisters and brothers at hot101.net, as always, we thank you so very much for being there. You can call us too. If you're watching the telemetry, if you are using the hot101.net, the hot101.net app, he tried to say. Now I'm fumbling all over the place because I held my tongue when the rep was here. I said everything properly. I didn't have any faux pas. Now I'm having a bunch, aren't I? If you are using the hot101.net app, you are getting telemetry. And on that telemetry is the name of the program, my name, today's date, and our phone number. And we are so glad that you are with us. You can listen to hot101.net at the main website, which is hot101.net. You can use the Apple app. The Android app is at the Google Play Store, and the TuneIn Radio app. If you missed any of today's program, youtube.com/That Other Side of Information. You can find us on Instagram, That Other Side of Information. You can find me at LinkedIn, look for Jeff Kennedy. You can find me on Facebook, look for Jeff Kennedy. And of course, I've been talking about the group page, which is really where you should go first. You should really be visiting the group page and seeing all the wonderful information that we put up there, the news stories that we put up there. And it's not all political. Sometimes it's environmental. It could be animal advocacy. It could be diet, nutrition. We put a lot of astronomy, actually. Could be all sorts of stuff up there. Follow it. And before the phone number is open, it's 267-227-9189, 267-227-9189. The phone line is open. We are ready to talk to you. 267 227-9189. You're using the hot101.net app. You can see on the telemetry that phone number. We want to hear from you as well. 267-227-9189. Before I forget tonight, before I walk away from the program tonight and forget to say this, if you have a business, a service, a product, or you are your business or your service or your product, and you want to advertise to what is quite literally, no exaggerations, a global audience, I beg you to advertise here. We do have a whopping 2 Patreon subscribers. You can subscribe to the program and contribute to the program via Patreon. You go to patreon.com, that other side of information, every dime that is brought into this program through subscription will go back into the program. It is not Kristen and I taking a big holiday vacation somewhere. Every dime of it goes back into the program. I'm not getting rich on it. If you want to be an advertiser on the program, please contact us. You can tweet me at @ThatKennedyTalk or email us at thatotherkennedy@gmail.com. Be a part of the program. Our first phone call of the night, I'm gonna answer it. I hope. There it is. Caller, your first name and where you are calling from, please. Hey, just Vermont. You moved to Vermont? Justin, you gave up on the Commonwealth. What happened, man? I understand.
Yeah. I just.
And you are also, as the comment I read earlier in the program, folks, from Justin asking about what is actually codified in law here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that the unequally abled, the disabled, I've got to be blunt, I don't even know what the PC term is for that right now, can be paid, not even just minimum wage, but very far under the minimum wage here in Pennsylvania, and it's legal. And this is what Justin brought to the attention of. He and I have talked about this before. He and I and Kristen have talked about this before. He's been a frequent visitor to us at Our Revolution Pennsylvania, and I beg you to find Our Revolution Pennsylvania on Facebook. You can find me there as well. This is an issue that's really near and dear to you, sir, and tell people why.
Oh, oh, oh. Oh. Justin. Justin. Oh, crap. I think oh, great. My mic went out too now. Oh, great. We're having all sorts of problems. There it goes. Yeah, I know. I can't hear myself with my headphones anymore. Something's gone wrong.
Sorry, bit of a technical.
There it goes.
There we
Yeah,
go.
something's
Now
gone
we're
wrong.
back.
Something has gone horribly wrong.
Well,
Something
I
has
can
gone
hear-
horribly wrong. My mic has gone out. He can hear me, but I can barely hear
Can
me.
hear
Let
me.
me try this. Actually, it's registering. No, it's not registering on the board. Something's gone horribly wrong. Something's gone properly wrong. Really wrong. Great. That's awesome. Well, it's not good. We are going to have to. About that. No, the board's going on me. Okay, we got problems.
You
Well-
plug directly into the.
I'm
Computer.
probably, yeah, but then you're gonna get feedback when I hear you. Yeah, look, the board's gone. I don't know what's happening. I have no idea what went wrong. I don't know what went wrong. Although, yeah, all my levels are shot. I have no idea what happened. Oh, this is live radio, kids. This
Justin,
is
can
live
you,
radio.
Hear us?
Justin, are you still with me? I don't think he can hear me either. Everything went to pot, and I have no idea what just happened. The
That's-
board
that's
is
a
acting
shame.
up. I think we have problems. We have serious. Well, I am going to try to do something very, very quickly. The whole thing might have gone to crap at the moment. Internal speaker. And built-in microphone. Okay, I think we might possibly still be with you, but I have no idea. Literally everything just blew. And I guess I better figure out how to use that really fancy brand new board I bought and paid a lot of money for, by the way, because I think everything just went bonkers. So I have a lot of work to do. But what I can say, I will not be able to hear callers. I will not be able to do anything with that right now. So this is probably the time for me to say goodbye to you, because everything just went to pot. I haven't got a clue what happened.
George just
Um,
said reboot the board.
Yeah, well, there's no way to reboot the board in the normal program. So we're going to have to say goodbye to everybody. And I didn't really want to do that. And my apologies to Justin. And I
Yeah.
hope somehow, Justin, you can hear me.
Because that is such an important issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I've been trying to find Justin to have him on the program to talk more and more about this. And I'm going to have to hang up on him, which is going to look really, really rude. And I'm desperately apologetic for that.
Well, I can put in the chat.
I did too, but I'm
Okay.
gonna have to let him know in the chat that I can't do anything right now. The board just completely crapped out. There's no sound going through it. There's nothing going through it. I am talking to you now through the computers, the built-in microphone and camera, and I've always used the camera, the built-in speakers and so on through the computer, in which case I don't know. Actually, Justin's still there. He's talking to me. Hang on, Justin. Give me a sec. Hold on, mate. Hold on, mate. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Try me.
I'm here.
Okay.
There he is.
I can hear you on the computer. I have no idea if the folks at home can hear you. So I'm going to look really, really rude. And I really desperately hope you can take accept my apologies, but I have no idea what just happened. I've lost everything.
Yeah. he
So,
lost everything.
Please don't be upset, Justin. I'm going to have to let you go because I don't think any of the people at home can hear you. However, I will be in touch with you because I'd like to have you on the program to discuss this further. This is a super important issue, and it's something that I need to talk to you about. But oh wait, Ryan's telling me, somebody just told me that they can hear you. Hold on. This is bad radio, folks. Really, really bad radio. It's just crap. So I'm gonna say goodbye to you, but not only because something's gone horribly wrong here. So please accept my apologies. And I would like you to please, I will find you on Messenger or something, or Facebook Messenger, that we can arrange a time for you to come back so we can dedicate a program to this. Would that be okay?
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for being patient. I'm so sorry. That was, everything just blew. I have no idea what happened. The board just went. So anyway, folks, for everybody at home, I take all of the sound and I run it through what looks like a mixing board that you would see in a recording studio. And that board just completely went out. I got nothing. Right in the middle of my phone call with Justin, I got messages from folks that are listening that they could not hear him. So as I tried to fix that problem, everything went to pot and just completely collapsed around us. And how I don't even know how I'm still smiling. This is usually, George would tell you this is usually when I'm picking up things and throwing them, which is usually not very good for electronic equipment to be picked up and hurled across the room. So I have a lot of work to do. I have no idea what just went wrong, but it did, and I got work to do. So all that said, Justin, thank you for ringing me. Look for a message or something for me on Messenger. Is this your mobile phone?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm going to scribble that down. I might just text you at some point. And I want you to come back and talk to the folks about this really important issue. And thank you very much for being patient and for calling us tonight. I really appreciate it, Nate.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. All right, folks, I haven't got a clue what just happened. And I just don't know what happened. I haven't got any idea. Apparently someone else tried to call in. I don't know if that's from tonight. I didn't hear that. Yep, I missed a call from 20 minutes ago. No, it's 7:40. Somebody else tried to ring in. The phone software will only allow me to take one call at a time. It is just a free bit of software called Google Voice, and it allows me to take phone calls and put them on the air. For some reason, you folks could not hear anybody at home, or you folks at home could not hear the callers, which made me start to play with the board to see why I couldn't figure that out. And now it's just, nothing's happening. So let me say this to you for right now. Everything just went crazy. So let me just say this. As of right now, we have no guest lined up for next week, the 15th. Maybe it will be Justin. But at the moment, we have nothing. And that means I hope I can fix everything by next week and get everything working again. There is no sense in me trying to 201-323. I don't know who called me from a 201 number, but someone called me from a 201 number tonight, and I missed that call. So I apologize. Just now, I'm completely flustered, as you can tell. This is not how we like to do things. I'm completely flustered at this moment. I haven't got a clue what went wrong. So I have a lot to do. So we're going to say goodnight to you for now, because you don't want to listen or watch me try to fix all this. It's not very fun. There's nothing fun or entertaining about it. Even my levels on Hot 101 are terrible right now as I'm looking at the software. I don't even know if you folks can hear me very well. So I need to do some work here. So for now, I will say good night to you. My sincerest, deep thanks to Representative Joe Ciresi for being here and for being the first sitting state rep to join our program. I hope that for any other state rep, state senator, row office, anywhere in the country that is feeling bold, feeling safe, and seeing the way Rep Joe and I had a chat tonight, and that you enjoyed it and feel this a good place for you, you are welcome here. And from both sides of the aisle, both. So we want you to be a part of the program. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Be kind to one another. Have conversations. Remember what Rep Joe was talking about, conversations. We have to talk to each other again. Talk to each other. Let's have conversations. Let's heal this nation. I know it's a little early. It's quite short for us to end the program, but with all of the technical things, it would just be better if we said good night to you for now. No scheduled guests currently as of next week, but our plan, assuming I can get everything to work, is that we will be back with you next week, 5 p.m. Eastern time for the Kennedy Effect. That would be August 15th. Until then, for Associate Technical Producer Lynn Dare, for Technical Producer George Dare, for April Riddick, for DJ Lex and DJ Earl at Hot 101, for Marquise, Whitney, Taekwon, and Sarge at TCP, I am Jeff Kennedy. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next week, and hopefully everything will be working by then. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and